Once the hero opened his eyes and found himself in a medieval fantasy world. The man didn't know how he got there, but made sure he was right in the middle of a battle on the battlefield. For the sake of survival, the hero who got into this world had to become a mercenary and fight for his survival. The man had to destroy his enemies to survive in this world. A lot of breathless bodies he'd had to narrate throughout the battles he'd fought. One of the knights tried to attack his opponent and he managed to pierce his body, but he didn't want to give up just like that. The warrior grabbed the sharp sword with his bare hands and wanted to pull it out of his body. The bloody warrior took out his opponent's sword from his body and intended to destroy his opponent with it. Suddenly, a woman's voice was heard on the battlefield, ordering them not to yawn or they would all be sent to the other side in an instant. The woman on horseback declared to her minions that on the battlefield one should not relax even for a second. The commander ordered a signal that summoned the rest of the warriors waiting in ambush. The man blew his horn at the command of his mistress and the powerful sound echoed throughout the area. The warriors, hearing this signal, rushed into battle and began to stampede their opponents, their army also suffering casualties. After what happened, all the hero wanted was just to live. He stayed among the mountain of breathless bodies. The woman informed the man that once again he had survived such a fierce battle. His partner asked me to let her look at his wounds, but he was fine. The woman stated that it was very good that his handsome face remained intact. Suddenly it rained. They were the only ones who managed to survive and stay on the battlefield. The woman reassured him. The woman informed Eren that despite everything, she really likes the rain. His companion suggested that he move east after the war was over, which they actually did sometime later. After a while, Eren was alone. Being in the rain, he remembered his beloved's words that it rains more in the east. The woman died, but carrying the memories through time, Eren did not forget about her. He made sure the rain let up even harder. Suddenly, a whistle sounded. The commander ordered the guards to follow him and stop poking around near Eren. They were catching criminals who intended to leave the castle grounds. The two men turned to Eren as the captain looked at them silently as they tried to hide from the rain. Eren saw them coming, asking where the rest of the minions were assured they would be coming soon. The man hadn't thought their delicate Hans would make so much noise. His partner had always considered him a pain. The partner stated that Hans was a mage and mages in general were not to be trusted. He was sure he had abandoned them. The mercenary was sure Hans had contracted some demons and was using them. Eren thought about it because it didn't seem to him that Hans would be capable of such a thing. The comrade didn't understand what demons he was talking about, assuming that he was just jealous of Hans because the nickname Handsome had been transferred to him. The man assured that no one would have given Hans such a nickname. Comrade assured that he had never been called handsome. Suddenly, the henchmen noticed that their captain started to leave. They asked where he was going. Eren replied that he was going to the shelter. The mercenary informed that from now on, Hans would indeed have a new nickname. The minions were convinced that their partner would have a nickname like Handsome even if only one head was left of him. Eren headed for the shelter, deciding to ignore the stupid conversations of the two of them. The commander realized that if they caught Hans, then the kingdom would surely hang him. He approached the barracks of the outer guard of Caserta Fortress. The man walked into Manuel's office, the commander of the outer guard, who said he was a little late getting back. Eren admitted that he had overslept, and what had happened was his fault. Manuel fell thoughtfully silent. The commander of the outer guard heard that Eren knew the wanted criminal Hans. Manuel asked if they really knew each other. Eren was only superficially familiar with this mage. Hans had an unusual mind as a child, and when he was young, he told Eren that he had entered the academy. Eren talked to him even after he had enrolled, but he told the commander that he did not know Hansmo, assuring him that they only said hello when they met each other on the street, because if he had answered in the affirmative, it would have been a problem for him. Manuel stated that it was even good to report that this mage had committed an uncommon crime. The crime Hans committed seemed to the Lord's daughter he had stolen something that was not fit to be stolen. The commander of the outer guard said that the situation is serious, and if they manage to catch this criminal, they will please the Lord very much. Eren realized that Manuel was determined not to miss the opportunity to show off for the Lord, so he called out to him. Manuel stated that he needed to deliver this mage Hans immediately, and it didn't matter if he was dead or alive. The mercenary replied that he would do his best. Deciding that this situation was unusual because the incident involved a lord, Eren left the outer guard commander's office with an assumption of what he should do. The man realized that he was in danger of execution because of Hans's pranks, and suddenly someone approached him. The 4th Brigade of the Caserta Fortress Spring Guard has reported to the commander that everything is ready. The men assumed the mages were unstable, but they didn't believe Hans could be hiding in the filthy 7th district. The team was sure that Hans had nothing to do in this neighborhood. Koto suggested that they just make them look for him and go have a beer. Suddenly, the brigade commander angrily ordered them to shut their mouths. All immediately obeyed him. Eren called them medieval Debolomites because even when in danger, they can't help but talk about alcohol. The man noticed a hooded man sitting on the ground. He turned to him and told him that he was a guard of the fortress. Eren ordered him to open his face. The man stated that it had been a long time since they had seen each other. The commander didn't expect this stranger to know his name. He took off his hood and said hello. The man wanted to say something to Eren whom they hadn't seen for a long time. Eren interrupted his words with a powerful punch straight to his jaw. He didn't understand such behavior. The man fell to his feet after such a powerful blow from the commander of the fortress guards. The commander of the Quartermaster Brigade suggested that this homeless guy was looking for trouble. The man assured that he didn't mean anything like that. He was just a herbalist and wanted to report the theft. Eren realized why he seemed familiar to him and was just as embarrassed by what he had done. Weedman stated not exactly what he revived, he asked what he hit him for in the middle of the street. The man was shocked this day because not only was all the herbs stolen from him, but he also received from the guard. The herbalist didn't understand why this thief had such an urgent need for Grimm's common root since it grew all around the hill. Aaron remembered that Grimm's leaves were used as a blood-stabilizing agent and asked where the thief had run to. The herbalist gave a tip and Aaron followed to the appointed place. He saw a man who was shivering with cold. Aaron asked Hans what was wrong with him, who was shocked that he had been discovered so quickly. The commander of the 4th Brigade pointed out that the mage had always been so neat and tidy, and now he was cutting his own arm. Aaron stated that it was over and advised him to just follow him quietly. Han didn't intend to just give up. He cast a spell in a language unknown to Aaron. After that, a huge water cloud formed above him, which she intended to use to get rid of the Guardian. Aaron realized that this magic is a dishonorable and powerful art, assuming that Hans was helped by the dodge going in. Hans apologized for his act, saying that he could not allow himself to be caught. The man realized his head and saw that all that water was about to come crashing down on him. Aaron tried to somehow resist the magic, but he had a bad time getting it done. He fell off his feet. Hans was sure he could still fight back despite his injury. The mage continued to cast a spell in an unknown language trying to get rid of the guard. Aaron realized that water magic on a rainy day was a very unpleasant coincidence that he had fallen into. The man decided to act with brute force in such a situation and headed towards the mage, bypassing his spells. Hans tried to use magic as soon as possible to block his lunge. Aaron, heading towards the mage, ordered him to shut his mouth or things would be much worse. The guard realized that in the words of the mage lies an unknown force that opposes him. He managed to approach and strike. The blow went right next to Hans's head and he thought that was the end of him. A slight cut formed on the mage's neck and he stopped using the magic spell. Hans asked if Aran would be able to let him go. After all he had done, tears came to his face. Aaron stated that there are rumors going around that Hans has signed a contract with the demons. The guard added that if it was indeed true, there should be a scar next to the mage's heart. The guy lifted his clothes. Aaron made sure there was nothing on his body and it was all false rumor. Aaron asked Hans why he had stolen from the Lord himself, since he had not been forced by any demon. Hans replied that it would be difficult for him to understand his act, but that he would be able to do so someday. The guard heard that guards had also appeared near them, intending to search the street. Suddenly, the man grabbed the mage and pulled a vial of healing potion from his pocket. Aaron poured the potion on the mage's wounded body and he screamed in pain, but his body began to recover. The guard stated that it was a healing potion and no need to shout. He ordered to follow him. Losing a hand was not a sufficient punishment for theft, and it was not Aaron's place to judge since it was medieval. He had cleared a hole in the wall of the fortress. The hero realized that a man is either innocent or he is to be strung up on the gallows, and there is no third way. Aaron advised I could leave through that hole in the wall. Hans intended to thank him. The Guardian made a sudden blow that knocked the mage out of his comprehension of what was happening. Aaron asked him not to call him brother because he wasn't. He ordered him to get the hell out of here. Hans still continued to call him brother. He thanked him again and climbed through the hole in the wall of the fortress. The guard heard that the other squads were already very close with them. They were looking for the mage in every corner. Aaron finally declared that he was not Hans's brother. Then he put a hole in the ground and left the place. Hans disappeared without a trace from this small fortress in the eastern cordon of the kingdom of Kasardika. The girl was collecting dried delno and heard nearby looking for the thief. Suddenly, a strong wind blew. The girl's underwear picked up the wind current and began to drift away further. She didn't realize what she should do. Beautiful Hans, good. Hans, all these belong to the underwear thief, the medieval world in which personal hygiene and ethics were at a very primitive level. Aaron was the captain of the guard in this cursed world of chaos. He noticed someone's flying underwear. For a while afterward, the guards did not understand where this Hans could have run away from them. Kale, a guard of the 4th Brigade of the Caserti Fortress, couldn't believe that they had scoured the entire fortress and couldn't find Hans. Brigg assumed that since he was a mage, he could use magic to hide from them. Poole, nicknamed Snake Eye, stated that if everything could be done by magic, then man would not need hands. Carter asked them all to shut up and let him sleep after a night of searching. The man reported that for the past 3 days, he had not even been able to sleep 5 hours. Kale stated that lack of sleep would not kill him. Poole assured that this fool might die from not getting enough sleep. The team was surprised by this. Brigg reported that Carter threw up after dinner last night out of his own sleepiness. Werman, with the nickname Senior, he was not the official deputy commander, stated that in any case the search was over, and now they could all relax and rest. Kale didn't understand why he kept fluffing his feathers, but Vermin was sure he was in charge. Meanwhile, the commander of the 4th Brigade of the Casertic Fortress, Aaron, was called on the carpet to the Senior. William Constable lit a cigar, stated that he was very pleased to meet the commander. One word from him and Aaron would be dead, or he could send him to rot in jail for the rest of his life. William was the storm of all the guards of the fortress. He had heard that Aaron knew the wanted hands. The man indicated that the last section of the 7th district he went to inspect alone. William Constable knew that the 4th Brigade commander had found nothing there. The chief said that it just so happened that the internal guards couldn't go into that area. He was sure he had released Hans and all he had to do was extract confessions. Aaron replied that he had found nothing but trash in that area, realizing that William had no proof. There was tension between the men as they each insisted on their own. William turned to the commander of the outer guard. Manuel became worried when he heard he had been approached. The constable assured him that Manuel's cigars were very good. The commander of the guard replied that they were made in Kennelt Street. William said it was a luxury for an official with such a small salary. Manuel explained that a distant relative had given it to him. The man said he hoped that the commander of the outer guard was not guilty of embezzlement. Manuel assured that he was not involved in such a thing. William ordered to listen to him carefully, for all if it turns out that among the inhabitants of the fortress there is an accomplice. Aaron heard that a criminal or accomplice caught could die at the hands of William Constable. William extinguished his cigar against Aaron, who did not give the appearance of any dislike or discomfort. The chief stated that the commander of the 4th Brigade would do well to keep that in mind at all times. Aaron painted a fake smile on his face, assuring that he would keep his words in mind. Some time passed, and the sun had already begun to set over the horizon. The merchants of the fortress went home. The members of the 4th Brigade wished their captain a good journey. He said nothing to them in reply. Aaron has seen firsthand that in this medieval age there is no concept of human rights. The man realized that Hans must have escaped if the investigation was taking so long. As he passed the pub, he heard strange screams coming from it into the street. The girl didn't understand what the man was doing. He replied that this establishment had such a beautiful owner, and they couldn't just leave. Henna the Shinkark and the Laughing Bunny asked for it to stop and let her go immediately. One of the visitors stated that he told this man that ladies should be treated with care. Dylan explained that the lady didn't understand them because they hadn't been here for a long time and just wanted to make friends with someone. The man added that this friendship was to last all night, making it clear that he would not let Henna go. The man let the Chinkarni mistress go. The other men laughed her off. Henna stated that they were like foreign mercenaries, and if they continued to behave like this, there would be a very unpleasant situation. The hostess suggested they stop there before they had to regret what they had done. Dylan asked what she would do if they didn't want to stop and keep pestering her. The man approached the defenseless, frightened Henna and asked what she would do to them. Dylan assumed she was hoping some guard would come and protect her. The man said that these fools would never come to the rescue to protect some shabby little chink on the outskirts of town, and he didn't notice Aaron walking in on them. Suddenly, the girl was glad to see a guard entering her establishment because he could protect her. The others were also happy to see Aaron coming to clean up the place. The mercenaries immediately jumped up from their seats, realizing that a fight was about to break out. Henna quickly hid behind the back of the guard who intended to teach the insolent boys a lesson. Aaron said 10 days. Henna replied that 5, for there were fewer bandits this time. Assuring him that he was a guard and it was his duty to do so, the man replied that in 9 days his shift would end. Henna replied that she couldn't let him live more than 6 days. The guys didn't know what they were talking about. Dylan called them lowlifes who dared to ignore them. They ordered an attack on them. One of the henchmen pounced on Aaron, who kept urging him to give him a room for 8 days. The man stated to the guard that he was fine with looking at him, but the guard grabbed his face and stopped the attack. Aaron had had enough of this medieval dialect. He made it clear that these guys couldn't handle him. The guard informed Henna that she owed her a room for 6 days and a free dinner for tonight. Henna agreed to his terms, then Aaron threw the attacking man into the wall. Dylan was shocked to realize how much power this guard had, assuming they should have surrendered. Aaron decided to teach something to these medieval ignorant men, saw his dangerous look. The rest of the visitors were very happy because they would see the fight and it made them cheerful. The Guardian said that there are no bad people in the Middle Ages, only those who need more blows. The man pointed out that after a good punch, they immediately become kind and don't disturb anymore. Aaron continued to disarm the troublemakers one by one with ease. The rest of the men were waiting for some thugs to come in and watch them teach the place a lesson. The men asked Henna to bring them more ale. They were regular visitors to the Laughing Rabbit, because that animal lived here. The great street orderly of Cassardic's unruly captain of the guard, they were all loyal admirers of Iran. The guard noticed that once again these men were applauding him, deciding one day to teach them a lesson as well. Dylan, almost defeated, tried to discreetly pull a weapon from behind his back. Suddenly, Iran asked what he was going to draw his weapon. These words made his opponent change his mind. Dylan dropped the idea, deciding not to continue their conflict in which he would lose anyway. Captain Cassardi's shift as captain of the 4th Brigade of the Outer Guard of Fortress Cassardi was successfully completed. As the night fell, Aaron took one of the rooms in Henna's place as agreed. Aaron had a dream from the past where he and a girl are together on the same battlefield. She advised him to run and not look back. The girl informed him that he must live. Aaron grabbed his sword and drew it from his sheath in anticipation of danger. The guard realized that it was just a nightmare and tears came to his face. The next morning came and Aaron had been practicing with his sword from the earliest time. The hero has been in this world for 6 years he did not understand, until when he can live this monotonous life. Suddenly he was approached by a guard who liked his sword because it was without any frills. The man didn't know that there was a single swordmaster in Cassardic Fortress. He was surprised. Aaron noticed on his armor the crest of the Fenner family. He knew that there were not many people with such a crest. The guard shifted his gaze lower and saw a sword on his belt with a spiral hilt. Aaron assumed this guy was a real knight. He didn't understand what he needed from him. A knight squad that fought against demons crossing all human borders, swordsmen of mankind. The guard realized that if this man was from the Fenner family, then he was a knight from the distant Bolt Fortress. Aaron was curious as to why someone like him would come all the way out here to get to Cassidy. The knight assured him that there was nothing to frighten him, as he was simply amazed at his sword skill. The stranger asked the man what order he was from. Suddenly Ben was responded to. Aaron noticed a pretty girl running up to them looking for Knight Ben. The only daughter of the Fulputs family, Viviana didn't understand how the knight could leave her. The girl noticed that he was talking to someone. She apologized for interrupting Aaron, got down on his knee. Aaron reported that he was serving in a unit of the outer fortress of Kasserdik. The guard greeted the young lady Vivian, who had approached them so suddenly. The girl replied that she was very glad to meet Captain Aaron. She had heard that he was in a lot of trouble because of her. Vivian apologized, assuring that even though she had told her father it was nothing, he had made a fuss anyway. Aaron replied that everything was fine and there was no need to apologize. He wondered why Lady Vivian was accompanied by a knight of their fortress. The girl indicated that in that case they would leave him, assuming that Mr. Ben had interfered with his training. Miss Vivian asked Captain Aaron to continue working as hard as he did for the safety of the fortress. Ben recognized the man as a guard, though he had previously been sure he was a knight as well. The Guardian followed the men with his gaze until they disappeared from his sight altogether. Aaron suspected something wrong with what had happened, but realized that such things did not concern him. After a while, Manuel started yelling at Arn again, calling for him to come to him immediately. The guard realized that this tone didn't bode well for him, but he didn't understand what he had done wrong again. The inner fortress of Kasserdik stood on its ears with the shouts of the commander of the outer guard, Manuel. The commander shouted so much that he blushed and told Aaron off for what he had done, because he had asked him not to wave his fists at him too much. Manuel asked why the mercenaries of the inner fortress were suddenly all dead, saying that this time he would have to deal with it himself. Aaron made sure he overdid it a little too much. He didn't know these rascals were mercenaries from the fortress. Then the guard came to the chief of these mercenaries, who was no better than they were. Just as he knocked on the door, a shout came over him, ordering him in. Entering the office, he saw that the head mercenary of the inner fortress was a woman. The woman didn't understand what kind of guard he was that was causing so much trouble for their fortress. Officer Nova Castle advised that if he thinks he is not suited for the job, he can resign and not cause unnecessary hardship. The guard had expected such a reaction from her, for he knew that the castle officer liked to ramble, but he had a plan. Aaron knew a few tricks on how to win a woman's favor with him. The man smiled slightly for a start. He addressed the castle Nova officer by name. The girl was surprised at his behavior. Further, Aaron decided to compliment him to give him a good praise. The Guardian reported that today Nova's curls looked like fragrant ripe citrus, the aroma of which I wanted to savor. Noticing her reaction, the man realized that something had gone wrong, because she didn't respond to the compliment at all. Nova said he was just a headache. Aaron thought he'd done it. The castle officer reported that the mercenaries he had nailed yesterday were to be sent to Bolton Fortress. Aaron replied that they were more like a bunch of fools, and if they were sent, they would die anyway. Nova became furious, ordering him to shut his mouth. The guard obeyed her. The girl said that if it happened like this, Aaron would have to work for the mercenaries. She did not accept any objections. She would provide compensation, and he would have to deal with it himself. Aaron agreed. Realizing that he had set it all up himself, he asked what the assignment was, and Nova replied that it was an escort. Sometime later that afternoon, but in the evening, Aaron set out to escort the caravan to Bolton. The guard noticed the large number of carriage attendants and decided it was a bit much. Aaron noticed that most of the mercenaries were ready for some sort of major battle. The man didn't understand why they were all so suspicious right now. Aaron asked Dylan, who was in the carriage accompanying them, who had not expected to be addressed. Dylan recognized Aaron, who had finished off his squad earlier. He didn't understand what he was doing here. The man told the guard that he was a demon and he was stronger than him, even though he had killed his boys. Aaron made sure this mercenary was tougher than he looked, assuming he was hit less often. Dylan said he wouldn't mind him anymore. One of the mercenaries reported that the sun had already set and was thinking that the rest stop would be tomorrow. Someone had heard that they were supposed to stop at a small village nearby. Aaron, hearing this speculation, realized that this small village had the name Noctville. After a while, as Aaron guessed, they did come to this village. The mercenaries had heard that this village was completely empty, thinking there had been a bad harvest year and everyone had fled. One of the partners suggested that demons may be involved in the disappearance of the settlement. Dylan noticed that Aaron was starting to move away from them. The rest of the crowd was waiting to be fed. The mercenary followed the guard, trying to find out where he was headed. Dylan walked past the accompanying carriage from which someone was watching them, but no one noticed. The man asked Aaron where he was going since they had just gotten to Noctville. Dylan asked if there was anything interesting here. Dylan wondered where all the villagers had gone. Aaron answered him nothing. Aaron remembered the boy to whom he had given the book, who lived in the village, and asked to visit him again. The mercenary simply followed the guard, realizing he wouldn't be able to get words out of him. Suddenly, they came to the main street, and Dylan noticed pools of blood underfoot. Suddenly, Aaron advised his companions not to look up. He didn't realize what had happened. Dila did not listen to him and saw many breathless bodies hanging on crosses along that street. Aaron was trying to figure out what happened in this settlement. Suddenly, someone approached the guard. The man turned around when he heard his name. Dylan didn't know how to act in this situation. The mercenaries saw Viviana Fullputs in front of them, who asked what the guardian of Kasserdik Fortress was doing here. Aaron asked in response why Lady Vivian was at this point. Dylan looked at them silently. After a while, all the mercenaries had dinner ready, but Aaron and Dylan were in no hurry to get in line. It was the first time the mercenaries had had chowder with so much meat. One of them said that if the food here was bad, he would have deserted long ago. Dylan didn't understand how these mercenaries could eat after seeing so many breathless bodies. He wondered what kind of beast did it. Suddenly, a man approached them, explaining that it was a mass sacrifice. The mercenary indicated that what they encountered was some sort of ritual and these people were sacrificed to demons. The man asked if they were going to eat. Report that he had wine. Aaron refrained, stating that alcohol dulls humanity. Dylan stated that he would never give up wine. Aaron stated that if he puked again, he would kill him. The man introduced himself as John. He was the commander of this squad. He didn't recall the two mercenaries. The guard introduced himself as Aaron, explaining that he was just a part-time mercenary. John advised them to eat and rest, for as soon as the sun came up, they would set out on a journey that seemed difficult to him. Suddenly, the mercenaries noticed that the flower of the east appeared in front of them, accompanied by an entourage. Vivian Flupitz walked past the mercenaries without even looking at them for a moment. Dylan said that he had already seen this beauty, and John had a feeling that they were escorting not ordinary people, but he did not expect that they were escorting Lady Casterdick's carriage. Aaron recalled the dialogue he had had a few minutes ago with Lady Vivian. Earlier, the girl told the mercenary and the guard that she had just left the carriage for some air, saying that she was tired of being in the fortress all the time, and her father suggested she go to Bolt Fortress. The guard asked my lady what she had said about Lord Casterdick as her father. Suddenly, Ben came up to them and said that the less the mercenaries knew, the sounder their sleep would be. The knight informed the men that there were things they were not in a position to know, and so they parted ways. Now Aaron sat by the fire and tried to anticipate what Knight Ben had hidden from them. John noticed that Aaron was unusually calm for a guard, so he asked if he was afraid that they might encounter a demon. Aaron replied that they had a knight with them who could handle the demon with their help. Knights underwent special training to fight demons. They were the elite guard of the Emperor. Aaron said that as long as he had his own sword, he didn't have to worry about his life. The Guardian stated that even in the most difficult situation, he could find a way to survive. John realized that this guard wasn't as simple as he'd made it seem on first impression. The man wished the mercenaries good luck in their further escort, for no one knew what awaited them. Aaron picked up the book, and past memories with this place came flooding back to him. The boy was given a book that he really liked. Aaron hadn't seen him in a very long time. Aaron was sure that in the time they hadn't seen Horn, he had grown older, but suddenly he sensed someone's presence. With one powerful blow, the guard fended off the man approaching him. Aaron noticed that it was not a human but a zombie that intended to devour him. The monster looked at the man and tried to get up to finish what he had started. He started screaming. The zombie tried to approach again, but Aaron drew his sword and made a powerful strike, destroying the enemy. Aaron tried to figure out what the zombie was doing here and where it even came from. Suddenly, he heard screaming. Dylan yelled like a girl, ordering the monster away from him. He was trying to avoid a confrontation with him. One powerful blow silenced Dylan as he realized he had been rescued, blood from the zombies flooding his clothes. Aaron rescued the mercenary, who began to rejoice and thank him, calling him his brother. Dylan asked where he'd gone and why he'd abandoned him at such a terrifying moment. Alone, Aaron asked him to rest in peace, asking where everyone else was. The mercenary replied that they were totally fucked. The guard asked for more details. Dylan reported that the mercenary soldiers, they all slept like dead men and could not be awakened. The mercenary assumed they were all under some sort of sleeping spell. Aaron suspected magic was involved. Aaron assumed that if it was a spell, why then he and Dylan weren't affected by it? Suddenly, the realization came to the guard that they had added something to the chowder, that everyone, if except them, drawing the conclusion that they were going to be taken alive. Aaron's musings were interrupted by Dylan's shouts of assurance that they were apparently finished. Left alone, not under the influence of sleeping pills, they were to fight more zombies. Aaron stated that it was time to go into battle. Dylan realized that this was just foolishness since they would die this way. The guard intended to warm up on these slow zombies before the real danger came. Aaron began to destroy all those monsters that were slowly approaching him. The man ordered the rest of the monsters to wake up so he could kill them all in this village. After a while, the Guardian managed to kill all the zombies that were in the area. Suddenly, Aaron heard some noise. She thought it was another monster. He drew his sword. Aaron recognized the silhouette of Hong, who had turned into a zombie instead of all the villagers. 2 years ago, Aaron was hiding from his pursuers in the village, and that's how he met Horn. The man told the young man that he had mistakenly thought he was a knight because he was not. The boy pointed out that in the book he read about, he stated that knights are strong and noble. Horn was a farmer's son and loved to read. He called him because he was the strongest and coolest warrior he had ever seen. Aaron noticed that the boy liked to talk and asked him to stop stroking his head. Aaron liked Horn, but now he was convinced he was a zombie who needed to be destroyed. After settling in the fortress of Casterdick, Aaron continued to visit Horn, bringing him gifts. One day, a guard told the boy that there was a library in town that was full of books. The man reported that the librarians are up to their ears in these books. The boy was encouraged by the stories. Horn also wanted to become a librarian so he could read lots of books. Aaron said that since he liked reading books so much, he should try to become a librarian. The guard had heard of demons feeding on human fear, he struck. Aaron's sword stopped a few centimeters away from Corn, and memories came flooding back at him. One day, a guard asked the boy what was wrong with his face, and he said that his father had slapped him for saying he wanted to be a librarian. The boy's father talked about how a farmer's son could be nothing but a farmer. Aaron stated that this was not true. Now he was convinced that the demons fed on despair. Suddenly, the man hugged Horn, who had turned into a zombie, without fear of any repercussions. The boy continued to yell. The man informed him that he was not a knight, and continued to hug him. Aaron reported that he was just the captain of the guard. Then Horn passed away in his arms. The man noticed that behind him there was another crowd of monsters approaching him. Suddenly, Dylan announced that he had succeeded in rousing these layabouts, and now they were starting to fight against the zombies. The mercenaries woke up and said that they would slaughter all these monsters. Aaron realized that help had come to him. Aaron mourned the loss of this young boy very much, and wanted Horn's soul to find peace. The man hoped that nothing more bad awaited the boy on the other side as the mercenaries continued to fight. Suddenly, there was a powerful explosion in one of the buildings. Mercenaries were curious about what happened there, because they knew that Lady Vivian was there. Arak vowed to avenge Horn and headed for the building where the explosion had just occurred. Ben reported that rumors had reached him that an assassination attempt was being prepared on My Lady at Cassidy Fortress, so they were escorted to Bolton Fortress. The knight experienced that it was not a rumor. He did not expect My Lady to be attacked in this place, for her departure was secret. Ben stated that this was the romance of chivalry because he was the sword protecting the fair lady. Knight indicated that he didn't care that his opponent was an evil demon who wanted to destroy them. Ben ordered the monster to retreat, for he would not just let My Lady Vivian be harmed, and would defend her to her last breath. The enemy declared that this one was not just a knight, but a chatterer, saying that he was trying to buy some time, but his slaves would take a long time to heal because the dagger was poisoned with poison. The demon said that Ben had also eaten the chowder with everyone else today, and thanks to the poison in it, his mind must be clouded. The knight replied that the demon was so unsure of himself that he even had to poison him. The demon was angry at these words, ordering him to think about what he was saying, because from now on he did not intend to tolerate it. The enemy jumped off the wall, and from his landing the floor collapsed. Ben managed to move away from him. The knight noticed that his abilities were acting strangely. His aura was barely noticeable. Ben noticed that this possessed man had demonic erosion on only one arm. The man realized that once his feint worked, he needed to hit the parts of his body where there was no erosion. The demon tried to strike at the knight, but the knight in turn believed he still had a chance. Ben managed to launch an attack by striking directly into his opponent's demonic arm, but it had no effect. The demon responded by grabbing the knight by the neck, stating that it was a foolish decision to think he would die from being struck, where his body had not undergone a transformation. The creature assured that the one knight was unable to defeat him, saying that he would die. Suddenly, Aaron appeared behind the demon's back, intent on avenging Korn. The guard managed to cut off the head of the demon, who let Ben go. Aaron thought that would be the end of it. The demon, despite being seriously wounded, remained alive. He asked what he was. The enemy tried to attack the guardian, but he managed to defend himself with his sword in time. The demon began to recover from the damage. The men didn't know what to expect from it. The creature couldn't believe the man had managed to deal such a serious blow to it. A demon wasted his precious blood for some man who wasn't even a knight. The enemy has decided that before the sacrificial blood runs out, he needs to grab this girl quickly. Aaron stated that Horn turned into a zombie demon didn't understand what he was trying to tell him. The guardian lunged again, claiming it was revenge for Korn, whom he had turned into a monster. The demon grabbed the attacking man by the neck, letting him know that his attack was a fluke. The enemy threw the guard back into the wall, not realizing where this man got so much strength from. The demonic creature continued to recover and regenerate its wounds. Aaron stated that despite his treatment, he would continue to just endlessly slice him to pieces. The enemy made sure that this man was pretty fast. He took another wound from him. The man realized that his affairs were bad as the demonic hand began sucking his blood and would soon simply devour him. Noticing the change with his opponent, Aaron thought he might take a couple of hits, and he turned out to be weak. The demonic creature was furious at such words. He tried to pounce on the guard. Aaron lunged back at him with the thought of avenging Korn. He managed to slash the demonic arm. The demon asked who this Korn was, that he was willing to fight for him like this, but his opponent said nothing. The opposing entity realized that this man wasn't even a knight, but didn't understand where he got such strength from. Suddenly, another opponent interfered with them and wanted to strike at Aaron. The guard managed to block his blow, noticing that it was John who called him a big guy. Aaron stated that he had long ago realized who he was and was only wondering when he would reveal himself. John was convinced that this guard wasn't so stupid as to recognize his identity. The opponent pointed out that Aaron looks like a huge bear on the outside, but is a real fox on the inside. Aaron reported that the villagers had been sacrificed, and John had shown up just in time, and so he suspected him. The guardian continued to give a decent resistance to John, who had become on the demonic path. John stated that if it wasn't for Aaron, they would have finished their business a long time ago. The demon ordered to heal him, but the demonic entity replied that it was too late. The entity informed the man that he no longer needed his body and tried to stop him, but nothing worked. The man said he would give him blood, but the entity had already found a more tasty body. Meanwhile, Aaron's sword had broken, and he couldn't believe that the sword was so worn out from one fight with the demon. Joni noticed this and decided that now he would definitely be able to overpower the guard and destroy him. The enemy ordered him to pass away, confident of his superiority. Suddenly, Aaron struck right in the head with his broken sword. John didn't expect this turn of events. The opponent was injured and fell to his knees, dropping his sword. Aaron managed to send him to the other side. Joni didn't expect such a strong man to be here, and so he was defeated. Aaron noticed that a true demon who used the body of a human had appeared in front of him. The demon still consumed the man, who only had a hand in the demonic essence. Suddenly, the demon ordered the pathetic human to answer his question of interest. The demon indicated that a great being would become possessed by the guardian, and what he would do in such a case. The enemy stated that Aaron didn't have the strength to swing a sword and wasn't even a knight. The demon didn't realize what he could do to him and headed to strike him. Aaron declared that he still had the strength left to tear out the hideous demon's gape. The demon squealed in pain. Such behavior of a human impressed him very much. Suddenly, a memory came over Aaron of one of the men asking the other for his money back. Wayne asked him not to be nervous and to let him go because he should have trusted his friends. But the man ordered him to shut up and return the money. The gladiator Goal Guy and the gambler Wei were arguing about the money the former had lost to the latter. Aaron also remembered the witch Ivera who had been watching and taunting them. Gang Commander Woodra ordered them to stop and give Goal Guy his money. Aaron remembered his comrades who were partners in mercenary endeavors. Wayne didn't understand how he could give away the money he'd won from Goal Guy Ivor, kept laughing at them. Suddenly, Aaron was approached by his dead partner asking if he had forgotten about them. Aaron had to survive at all costs to carry the memory of his fallen comrades. The demonic entity declared that his body was indeed delicious. The restraining mental chains were broken. Suddenly, the guard came to his senses and assumed he was just imagining things. Ben was glad that Aaron was finally awake and continued to slowly come to his senses, remembering what had happened to him. The knight asked if Captain Aaron had come to his senses, for they had much to do. The guard was surprised that Ben had survived too. The knight thought that Aaron was already dead because his breathing was getting weaker and weaker. Feeling his body, Aaron was surprised that it was perfectly fine, but he thought he had been injured in the fight. Ben reported that when he came to, the guard was unconscious. Aaron didn't realize what was happening to him. The knight reported that that demon was lying next to the guard and pulled him away from the demon. Aaron noticed that the human body was emaciated because the demonic entity had sucked all the strength out of it. Ben asked if it was Aaron who destroyed the demon. He replied that he didn't remember anything at all. The Guardian said that the main thing is that the demon died and how it came out is not so important. Aaron asked what this reckless young lady had to do with demons because it didn't seem like she tasted like she was on the verge of perdition. Ben replied that it was not his concern, stating that he was being very rude in allowing himself to be addressed by the nobles. Knight stated that however they owed Aaron a debt of gratitude, he had recovered from the battle. Ben decided to introduce himself by all the rules he asked to accept his sincere thanks. Aaron listened silently to the words of gratitude and tried to figure out what kind of memories he was seeing. After sunrise, the mercenaries gathered the zombie bodies all over the settlement in a pile and started scorching them. Aaron realized that these people would sacrifice an entire settlement to summon a demon. It was all to make an attempt on Lady Cassidic's life. Such an action seemed very suspicious to Aaron, but he did not share his thoughts with anyone. As soon as all the bodies were cremated, the cortege was turned around and sent back to Casserdick. The mercenaries also agreed that the official version confirmed that Ben personally defeated the demon. Aaron realized that since they were the only ones involved in what had happened, he thought it would be more convenient for them. The guard assumed that if people found out that he was in contact with a demon, chances were high that the seriousness of the situation would escalate and the church would investigate. Aaron survived this battle and earned compensation. Suddenly, Dylan approached him. Dylan asked why he was so fast. He hurried to catch up with him to question him about what had happened. The guard thought the weasel had long since died, but he survived hiding under a pile of breathless bodies. Aaron asked Dylan to leave him alone, deciding that this was the end of his part-time mercenary work. The man was shocked by what he saw. He didn't understand what had happened to his body. The Guardian looked at his reflection upon arriving back in Casserdick and was horrified. The demonic eye appeared on Aaron's body after he slew him in the last battle. Suddenly, the demon asked the guard how he was doing. He was stunned to realize he was talking to him. The man immediately grabbed his sword and tried to strike at the demonic eye. The demon reported that he only felt good about it and asked me to scratch a little higher. Aaron ordered him to shut up. He realized he wouldn't be able to get rid of him. He started screaming from it. Hannah heard loud screams coming from the guard's room and wondered what was going on. The man suggested that he was the same demon he had recently fought and replied that this is what the ignorant servants call him. Aaron remembered how he had fought and realized the demon had latched onto him when he ripped out its flesh. The demon reported that it did not happen by the will of the man, he merely possessed his body out of personal desire. The man asked him to move to some other body or he would cut him off along with his skin and flesh. The demon replied that in this situation, Aaron wasn't solving anything, explaining that it takes time to move between vessels. The guard asked how long it would take him to leave his body. The demon replied that it would take 100 years. Aaron was angered by this response. He tried again to get rid of the demon with the knife. The demon tried to assure the man that it wasn't so bad with him. He decided to show him what he could do. The entity demonstrated its powers to him. The demonic eye glowed with a bright light. Aaron noticed that his knife began to envelope with magical power and change in shape and size. The man made sure that this demon had an aura like the knights he had met. The guard was curious about the demon's power, which is only available to knights. After the demon stopped releasing his aura, his dagger took its original form again. The demon asked if the man had beheld his potential hidden in his essence. He was riddled with so tired of it. Suddenly, the demon eye closed and stopped talking to him without responding to his questions. Aaron made sure the monster was nothing at all, assuming it had fallen asleep. Suddenly, Hannah's voice was heard and she turned to Aaron, who hurriedly closed the demonic eye on his body, realizing that if they saw it, he would be finished. The girl asked the guard to come down for a moment, saying that someone had come to see him. The man had arrived at their Catholic monastery of Casserdica and was waiting for Aaron to come down. The monastery henchman recognized that Aaron was on top and decided to waste no time and go up to him. He pushed Hannah out of the way. The man ordered the guard not to slow down because his nobles called him a commoner. Aaron was looking for Knight Ben. The man ordered him to go down the second. Suddenly a punch flew at him. The guard stated that the man's face was still crooked, calling him by the nickname of Jace 1/4. Aaron indicated that he would be ready soon, asked him to lie down for a while. He was shocked at his behavior. Then he went downstairs. Hannah asked what he was leaving already. She was happy to see him. Hannah asked him to come back early. She had recently learned how to give a massage, after which would feel good. The girl was ready to massage him for 50 bronze. Aaron refused because they had to hurry. Aaron was frightened, thinking he was being summoned to the nobility, but realized it was just Ben summoning him to him. The guard assumed the knight wanted to reward him for defeating the demons. Earlier, Ben asked if Aaron was okay with this, since defeating demons is a momentous achievement, and he's giving it all to him. Aaron didn't want to make too much fuss. He suggested he just share part of the reward he received. Ben agreed with him, promising that if he was rewarded, he would be sure to share it with him. The power to destroy evil and execute justice aura is a miraculous ability only available to knights. Only those who were personally selected and trained by the Empire became knights. But the methods of training were never described. Aaron knew all this, but he was kind of creeped out by the fact that the demon's power was similar to the aura of the knights. The guard asked Jason how much farther they had to walk, and he said they were almost there. Jason didn't understand why he called him a quarter, because it hurt him to hear it. Aaron asked what he didn't like, explaining that he had half of a half nobleman in him, and it was the perfect nickname for him. Jason was angry with the guard, promising that one day he would finish him off. He announced that they had arrived. The man was surprised to see that they had come to the Church of Solar. He did not understand why he had been invited here. Jason didn't understand why the guard's face changed so dramatically, and he became nervous at the sight of the church. Aaron felt uneasy because he had a demonic essence inside him, and he didn't know what would happen to him if he entered the holy place. Once inside, Ben was pleased to see Captain Aaron acting strangely. The knight noticed that Aaron was somewhat taken aback by his sudden invitation. The demon informed him that he was not comfortable in this place. Ben introduced the minister of the church, Priest Blyan. He was pleased to meet Aaron. Then they introduced Joanna to the Inquisitor, who looked arrogantly at the guard. The knight explained that these people were famous for their deep religious faith. Aaron looked at her warily. Suddenly, Aaron noticed that Joanna tried to strike at him. He thought she had spotted a demonic entity. The girl just touched the man's forehead, and he realized that it wasn't an attack, but he didn't fully understand what it was. Blyan explained that the Inquisitor extended a blessing palm to him, adding that he was jealous of him. Aaron realized that it was just some kind of religious ritual, which he didn't understand at first because he was far from it. The demonic entity didn't understand how God's servant dared to lay her filthy hands on him. Joanna reported that Sir Ben had told her everything and conveyed that Aaron had taken credit after defeating the demon. The girl handed the guard a small gesture of goodwill from their church, asking him to consider it a tribute to his achievement. Aaron believed he had gotten the church's gold fibula and a few dozen gold coins. The guard asked if someone like him could accept such a valuable gift. Blyan asked to take it. The priest said that all he had to do was lend them his abilities in times of dire need, which was rare. Aaron had heard that Priest Blyan is one of the corrupt lords and Cassardic's behind-the-scenes games. He claimed from now on to be his holy father. The Guardian realized that he could not refuse this offer. He proclaimed the Church of Solar. Joanna thought the guard was acting strangely, but said nothing. After a while, Kale was surprised at the captain's new look, asking if he had beaten anyone and then robbed them. Aaron asked him to start by taking off his show-off scarf and then saying something about his armor. Kale asked what was wrong with his scarf. The guard reported that this fibula was a gift filled with the blessing of the sun. God, he had bought the armor with the coins he had received. Kale recommended he better close his debts at the bar. After they visited the bar, the waitress brought them their ordered beer. Kale thanked Charlotte. Charlotte asked if Brig was coming over today. Kale said he had the day off today. Aaron asked if she had a crush on him. The girl replied that it was hard to see a nice man like Brig. The girl was going to give Brig a massage that made him feel good. Aaron realized who Hannah had gotten it from. The guard missed the cold mug of just poured beer from his world that was no comparison to this one. Charlotte asked, having heard him, and the latest gossip, those answered her negatively. The girl told the guards that a gang of crooks had recently appeared, and they asked for more details. The crooks were in a sick newt in the 5th district, and lately there had been a lot of strangers staying there because gambling was in vogue. The men kept losing at craps because their opponent kept rolling 6s. Charlotte informed the guards that the little girl kept undressing everyone who played dice with her. Kale stated that they should deal with this mischievous girl and find out what's really going on there. Aaron didn't understand how a minor dared to gamble in his neighborhood, and as captain of the Cassardic Church Guard, he couldn't sit idly by while it happened. Suddenly, Kale said the captain shouldn't be there dressed like that. Aaron said there was no need to worry and ordered Kale to follow him, who had no time to finish his beer and followed him. The captain of the 4th Battalion Guards intended to deal with the vicious den, but Kale didn't want to go there. Aaron took off his new armor, and they sewed a sick newt into the bar where the gambling took place. The men noticed that Aaron, who was famous for his monstrous strength in the area, had come to them. The guard stated that he and Joseph hadn't seen each other in a long time, and he asked where the dice game was. Joseph replied that Aaron had previously quit gambling and didn't understand why in that case he had come here. The man assured me that today was the last time he would play and would not touch it again, saying that for the first time in a long time he had money. The guard sat down at the table where the girl was sitting. He had heard she was a good dice thrower. The girl looked at him in silence, and he was ready to play with her. Putting a bag of coins on the table, they started the game. Aaron got a 6, which was the highest number in the game, and waited for the girl's turn. The girl also threw out a 6, and the people around her saw that they had another draw. Aaron suggested that she raise more bets in that case, and he doubled his money, confident of his victory. The girl agreed and also supported raising the stakes. She didn't understand his arrogance. The opponent purposely lost a few rounds to Aaron, and he started frittering away money on all sides. Suddenly, a man appeared behind the girl's back and discreetly coughed, giving her a sign. The girl realized that it was time to hook the fish because there was nothing he could do because she could turn the dice with magic. The opponent was determined to get every last dime out of this insolent man. Suddenly, Aaron asked to stop. Aaron asked what she was trying to divorce him with magic to didn't realize where she'd blundered. The girl immediately stated that he had to back up what he said about using magic. The guard replied that she put a 4 on him and a 4 on herself too to end the game. The girl was shocked that his words were actually confirmed. Aaron showed that he also had a 4 as he said that she did use magic. The man bet his entire wallet with his hand attached that she was using magic, and if she was scared, then let her go. The guard informed the girl that it was quite common to use young mages like her to create dirty gambling dens. The man thought Aaron was a common fool, and he came to them knowing who they were. He drew his sword, deciding it would be faster. The criminals told the guard that if he wanted to live, he should leave the money he won and leave here. Aaron asked if they knew the rule that if you are not sure of winning, it is better not to play. The guard pointed out that if one of them knew who he was, he wouldn't even step a foot, because they were having fun rolling dice with the girl. Aaron asked if they were ready for another round. He pulled out a gold coin. The man specified that it was the real gold of the Church of Solara. One coin was equal to 500,000 coppers. The robbers first saw the real coin of the church. The head asked what he was talking about. The man asked that even after he found out about them, and that this girl was using magic, Aaron still wanted to play. Aaron responded by asking why the biggest divorcees always talk so much out of turn. Bandit agreed to play him. He bet all the money and the hand this girl had, stating to Kana that if she loses in this round, she can kiss her hand goodbye. Everyone at the table, the rest of those present, began to watch with interest. Aaron pointed out to Kana that she should have gone to the Magic Academy, asking why she had gotten involved with criminals. The man assumed she'd learned a little about magic and didn't like it. The Guardian also speculated that Kana didn't have enough money for admission and was trying to raise it that way. The girl asked him not to make things up when he didn't know anything about her. She took off her hood. Aaron realized from her reaction that he was right and decided not to escalate the situation any further. The brigand realized the guard was just stalling for time, but they still weren't going to let it go alive. Suddenly, Aaron asked if Kana could make beer cold with magic. The girl was shocked at such an unexpected question, replied that she could do such a thing. Kana didn't understand why he was suddenly interested in such information. Aaron replied that he was passing. The game called Dice had such rules. 2 dice were stirred in a glass, after which the numbers were added up and the player with the highest sum won. The head of the brigands didn't understand what Aaron was doing. They ordered his minions to send him to the other world. Aaron managed to see the lunge in time and counterattacked his attacking opponent. The game was also called the Warrior's Wager, said that a man who follows luck will never lose. The head of the brigands decided to personally get rid of this insolent guard who dared to mock them. Aaron made sure that this time his opponents got a good kicking. He dodged the blow. The guard asked if the gang leader was ashamed of his actions and didn't understand how he had managed to resist them. Aaron didn't understand how a bunch of grown men let themselves live off a little girl. The commander of the guards managed to neutralize all the bandits intent on sending him to the afterlife. One of the lurking opponents grabbed a dagger and began to approach the guard. Aaron realized that he was using dark magic to get closer unnoticed. The man stated that it wasn't bad at all since the bandit preferred to pass away with his friend. Aaron snatched the knife from his opponent and plunged it straight into his chest. The man died instantly on the spot. Kana couldn't believe her eyes that this man had single-handedly dealt with those bandits. The Guardian managed to defeat with his bare hands all those who intended to send him to the other world. Kale stated that when Aaron plays craps every time he gets into a fight, and that's why he was banned from playing. The partner said that the man is wanted in a neighboring town nicknamed Shaq. The knife-wielding maniac Aaron said it's none of his business. After the guard found the girl, she thought she was going to be killed like the robbers. Kana started to ask for forgiveness and beg for mercy, but Aaron offered to earn her money. The man informed her that she could serve her a cold mug of beer a day, and he would give her a job with room and board until she entered the magical academy. Aaron asked what she thought about it, offering to go along with him. Kana had not expected this turn of events and was agreeable to his terms. Not long after their deal was made, Kana interrupted the Guardian's training. The man was glad she brought him a cold mug of beer, calling them mini-coldos. The girl didn't realize what that meant. Aaron thanked her. He took the mug and immediately drank the cold beer to the bottom. The guard stated it was what was needed after such a sweaty workout. The man asked how old the girl was. Kana replied that she had recently turned 12. The guard didn't understand why she was so short, assuming she might be a gnome. Suddenly, their dialogue was interrupted by Hannah, who was outraged that Aaron had a daughter. The man did not understand her hint because he had no plans to do anything like that. He was not in a relationship with anyone. Aaron explained that this magician's girl he had picked up off the street, assuring that it was not a daughter. The guard knew that Hannah was short-staffed and asked him to consider the girl a newcomer, asking him to be nicer to her. The girl looked carefully at the girl who didn't look at all like Aaron. Suddenly, Hannah started hugging Kana, who seemed cute because she couldn't possibly be Aaron's daughter. The girl realized that the girl had to go through a lot of things because of the adults informing her that now she will protect her. She asked what her name was. The girl said that her name was Kana. The girl asked Kana how many mugs of beer she could chill in a day. Hannah assured him that she wasn't asking for much, but it was great if she chilled 300 mugs each. Aaron decided not to disturb them. Guard Captain Aaron's routine was roughly as follows. He first greeted Chief Manuel before starting work. He then visited the marketplace, stating that he needed to check the freshness of the apples being sold. Then when a patrol of traders nearby needed to maintain order within the walls of the fortress. The old people didn't understand what kind of bastard was taking away a small part of their goods day after day. The merchants let him do whatever he wanted because thanks to Iran, there were no more bandits hanging around their market. Afterward, they extorted money from the smuggler, but he assured them it was all he had. The guards said if they found one more penny on him, he'd be hanging on the gallows. Aaron walked up to his battalion asking to go easy on himself despite being a smuggler. The captain of the battalion assured him that he had 300 coppers on him, and they would take 100 of them for themselves. Aaron proceeded to inspect the carriages at the outer gates of the castle. The man remarked that apparently there wouldn't be many visitors today. Suddenly, a man came up to Aaron and told him that the carnelian flowers would not wither. The 4th Battalion commander asked what his scar had sent to him again. The man asked that the name not be spoken in the hearing of the one who is the shadow of Kasserdik Fortress. Aaron asked him to shut up and just tell him why he came. He was surprised at his behavior. A man reported that rumor has it that a bunch of strangers have been visiting Kasserdik lately. Aaron learned that quite a few of the strangers among them pretended to be merchants but acted suspiciously. The interlocutor asked to look at the letter said that it was from the Shadow King. 3 days had passed since they had entered the walls of the fortress. Aaron learned from the letter that the unknowns made every possible attempt to stay in the fortress and conceal their presence, but they could not fool the Shadow King Scar. After reading the letter, the guard squeezed it and threw it away, saying that he was busy for such nonsense at the moment. Aaron huffed to tell Scar that he didn't have time for his childish games right now. The Shadow King's henchmen didn't understand how he could talk about him like that. The guard ordered him to stop fooling around and leave his post. Aaron stated that the increased number of foreigners in this remote provincial place would only benefit their economy. After a while, the captain of the guards noticed the wagon approaching. He ordered Carter to wake up. Aaron said it was time to raise some money, and they stopped the wagon for inspection. The man noticed that this merchant looked suspicious and decided to believe him. Carter stated that it was Dornoy, whom they had seen several times before. The subordinate informed the captain that it was Dornoy. He was from Mosark's high society and had moved in with them. Carter had already inspected him several times. Dornoy was glad to meet the captain of the guard, for he thought he was a knight from his appearance. The man handed him a bag of coins, stating that the guards worked so hard day and night. Aaron accepted the bribe, stating that he could call him his brother. Dornoy was glad it had gone well. Carter asked about Dornoy bringing back that thing he brought in last time. The man responded positively and pulled out the pills. Carter asked to be given a couple of them. Dornoy handed him a few pills. Carter thanked him, saying that they knocked him out immediately. Aaron didn't understand what it was. The guard asked not to take those pills from him, but the captain had no intention of doing so. Aaron informed the man that they had to inspect everything brought into the fortress. He asked if he had anything suspicious. Dornoy replied that he was fine, because if he had something strange, he would have paid more for the entrance fee right away. Carter looked into the wagon and was shocked by the contents. He immediately covered his nose from the foul odor. He asked the captain to come over. Aaron approached the wagon and saw that there were many goat carcasses in a very disgusting condition. The men noticed that the bodies were already decomposing and there were parasites everywhere, and decided that soon the whole carriage would rot in this way. The captain of the guard asked Dornoy what he planned to do with all of this. The man grinned suspiciously and answered nothing. Aaron was convinced that this murky man. Dornoy said that the butcher he worked with had died in an accident, so he had to bring the goats here in this condition, and he gave them more money. Aaron changed his mind and began to think that he was a diligent merchant. The guards let the guest wagon pass, assuring him that they were glad to see him in Kasserdik Fortress. Dornoy stated that very soon this place is going to be hell on turnout, and their words are complete nonsense. Aaron asked Kartar if the merchant's name was Dorna, noting that he liked to look down on people from high up. The commander of the guards remembered the contents of the letter that many unknown people pretended to be merchants, but behaved suspiciously. Aaron said that Dornoy should have looked after himself well, because in this bloody Middle Ages he is either completely pure or a hangman. A short time later, the guards meet at a bar and learn that Charlotte has asked Brigg out on a date. The man replied that the girl had suggested he go together to watch the execution. Aaron made sure Charlotte acted without slowing down. His partner was jealous that guys like Brigg went on dates. The captain figured since she'd made a date at a place like this, she thought a public execution was some kind of cultural festival. The man imagined a public execution for which many people had gathered. Brigg assured that whatever it was, he was going to give her a cake baked by his mother. The partner was outraged to hear a statement about a pie baked by Brigg's mom. Aaron asked he is talking now about that dish they have called a dog food fish feast. Brigg didn't understand what was wrong with the fish thresholds his mother had prepared. The man assured that he was very popular in the kingdom of Brigton, his mother's homeland. Aaron assumed that in that kingdom, everyone's nose was off. The captain was shaking his mother, but that damn fish pie was no different from garbage that had been held in the oven. Brigg called the captain very cruel. Aaron asked Herman if he was doing well, and he answered positively, even though he was twisted at the mention of fish pie. Suddenly, the messenger of the Scar Shadow King reappeared to report the carnelian flower. The guard captain immediately punched him in the face. Aaron assumed that Scar was looking for him. He grabbed the messenger and followed to the appointed place, advising Brig to be happy. He wished the captain a good journey. Then he came to the appointed place. Scar was glad, for they had waited long enough for him. Scar asked if he remembered their oath, he the one who rules from the shadows, and Aaron the one who stays in the light. They swore together to take control of the fortress of Kasserdik. The self-proclaimed Shadow King of Kasserdik Fortress, Scar, announced that the fulfillment of their vow was coming to fruition. Aaron decided that he was going to die if he planned such a thing. Aaron didn't understand why he had been pulled out of dinner for such foolishness, asking what kind of silly jokes he was up to. The man took the hat, and Scar thought they had found a replacement for the Adidas sweatpants. They didn't know what he was talking about. Scar's minions looked among themselves, trying to figure out what Adidas sweatpants were. Aaron tried to ask Scar what kind of nonsense the city's vigilantes were talking about. He told him to stop with the childish games, but he asked him to stop and listen to him. Scar asked if he remembered what he had recently written to him in a letter, because lately strangers entering Kasserdik had been acting strangely. The self-proclaimed King of the Shadows reported that, as suspected, these unknown people gathered every night away from their eyes. Scar had recently followed one of this group and suspected that something was going to happen in their fortress very soon. The man assured them that they needed to be extremely careful. Because of this, Aaron assumed that Scar felt like a big shot. Aaron said that the fortress guards would deal with the action themselves, advising Scar and his organization to stay out of it. The captain of the guards pointed out that Scar hadn't been in the carpentry shop lately, and that his dad, Jason, had been looking for him. Aaron asked if Scar was sure he could afford to do it. Hearing that his father was looking for him, the self-proclaimed Shadow King hurriedly left Orin, ordering his boys to follow him. Left alone, the captain of the guard pondered Scar's words, suggesting that something might indeed happen. The man decided to stay on his guard because such attentiveness will not hurt him. After a while, Aaron came to one of Dallas's executioners and brought them some things. The master was very happy about this visit, for they had not seen each other for a long time. Aaron Tad was also happy to see the guardian. The boy noticed that Aaron's armor was even cooler. The guard turned up his nose in admiration. The guard gave the boy an apple for a snack, and he was very happy to receive it. The father asked his son not to forget to thank him. Aaron made sure that the atmosphere in this house was as ominous as ever. He noticed the many weapons for carrying out the execution. Dallas apologized for calling him every time he asked his guest to take a seat at the table. Aaron assured him there was no need to worry because the apples were free. The commander of the guards was told of rumors that it was Aaron who had captured and sent all 6 prisoners to the scaffold. Dallas had heard it was members of Kairzan's lone wolf gang. Aaron had assured him it had come out on its own somehow. Aaron noticed that Tad had grown a lot since the last time they'd met. The boy had been busy with apples, for he loved them so much. Dallas replied that children grew by leaps and bounds. The commander of the guards handed the executioner an advance from Nova, who asked to be given to Dallas for the work ahead. The man added that the Lord was also planning to attend this execution, and was asked to demonstrate the best skills. Dallas realized what he was getting at and asked him to tell Nova that he didn't have to worry about it, because he'd do everything on the highest level. The executioner said that this time he was going to take Tad with him, because it was time for him to start preparing for the continuation of the family business. Aaron decided that his son had already grown up. Dallas explained that the son of a farmer grows up to be a farmer, and the son of an executioner must become an executioner because those are the rules. The executioner realized that what he wanted to convey was a job that people didn't accept because of its brutality. Such misunderstandings hung heavy on Dallas's heart all the time. Dallas reported that this was the reason his wife had run away from him. Tad suggested they try some of the apples he had sliced. The executioner was very grateful to the captain of the guards because he, unlike the others, talked to them calmly. Aaron assured that Dallas was the only normal person to talk to. Dallas had heard what had happened to Hans, and he offered Aaron his condolences. He never thought such a sincere kid would become a criminal. The Guardian realized that every man could indulge in sin, and he wasn't particularly sorry for what had happened to Hans. The man asked that his pumpkin be cut off exactly if he ever crossed the law and got caught. Dallas promised that in that case, for his sake, he would show the top of his skill by doing everything neatly. Suddenly, Tad came up to them claiming that if Aaron committed a crime, he would cut off his head. The men laughed it off. Dallas then offered to end their conversation by promising to see him on the scaffold soon. The men gathered at night in one of the alleyways. They made sure that it was getting harder to continue to operate in secrecy because of a man called Scar, who kept the neighborhood under surveillance. One of the henchmen assured that it wasn't the only thing he tried to tell them what had recently sprung up near the fortress. The assembled men learned that Kutan's attack had also failed, and one of them suggested action. The man indicated that an execution would be held in the town square in a few days. Dornoy suggested that they take advantage of this opportunity because then Lady Kasserdik's heart could be theirs. The henchmen realized what their plan was. Dornoy noticed the guy and asked if he was asleep or passed out. Carter woke up and asked for 5 minutes. The day of the execution came and everyone began to gather in the town square of Kasserdik Fortress. The men were shocked to see the cooling magic. Their mug of beer instantly became cold. The people around them were awed by the little wizard as they asked her to chill on another mug of beer. Hannah informed the honored guests that they had another baguette with strawberry jam, assuring them that it went perfectly with the wine. Werman didn't understand what he was doing here. The guards told people passing by that if they even tried to steal a bun, they would immediately become a dead man. Hannah pointed out that thanks to Iran, who came up with the idea of selling bread and jam under wine, they have tons of customers. The man noticed that the cold beer he can also enjoys is not a small demand, making sure that his intuition did not fail him. The guard was keeping order in the square as many people had gathered to watch the execution. Aaron realized that even if he started explaining associative marketing to Hannah, she still wouldn't understand. Hannah asked the guard why he decided to put Hannah down, and he said he just wanted a cold beer. The girl said that she could see that the reason was not only that, because Aaron rarely showed interest in people. The man realized that she had understood correctly, but was in no hurry to tell her everything. Aaron recalled his past life telling Hannah that he had once picked up a kitten off the street, and apparently Hannah reminded him of it. The girl was pleasantly surprised that he had sheltered the kitten. Suddenly, their conversation was interrupted by a guard. The Guardian didn't understand why their squad was working on their legal day off, assuming they were all here to sell beer and buns. Aaron said he had heard some disturbing information not long ago. He just thought it was an undercover job, ordering a guard to report as soon as they noticed anyone suspicious. The guard was glad to hear that they were here on a secret mission. He asked why only Wehrman and Poole were here. Wehrman explained that Brig was now talking to Charlotte as well as Kale was supposedly with Rose. It was reported to the captain that Carter was asleep as usual and of little use at this event. After Aaron went down to the dungeon where the criminals to be executed were kept, he noticed Tad there. The boy was pleased to see the guard he was watching over one of the men who was to be executed. Aaron asked what he was doing in a place like this, since it wasn't a good place for kids to be. Tad replied that their guests were obviously nervous about the impending execution, and he was just calming them down. The boy tried to calm the men who were freaked out that the execution was about to begin. Tad assured me that his father had already taken down over 100 heads and had done everything quickly and clearly. The young man said that the palace would take them to the next world completely painlessly, and they need not worry. Aaron made sure that he was a nice boy. Suddenly, one of the men came up to the bars and tried to say something, but the others couldn't understand because his mouth was tied. Aaron took out the keys to the cell, saying that their time of reckoning had come. He began to lead everyone out to the square. The executioner was ready to execute the first, offering all criminals to say goodbye to their heads. Many people gathered in the square were very excited to see the first head fall from his shoulders. Aaron began to raise the next criminal to be executed. He noticed the crowd that was screaming at what they were seeing. The man assumed that executions in medieval times were a kind of political action. Nearby sat Lord Cassidy's family watching the whole event. Such an execution was carried out to relieve the accumulated stress of the downtrodden population and to show the authority of the government. The executioner asked the man to tuck his head a little. Aaron waited until it was time to lead the next one. Earlier, Fortress Nova's officer said the event would be more important than usual. The criminals Aaron had captured were the same thugs who had killed the noblemen from Karzan, and his lordship had taken action to improve relations with Karzan. Nova explained that this execution was a kind of diplomatic event, and absolutely no incident was supposed to happen. Now, being at the execution, the guard realized that when it was said that way, it was bound to happen. Suddenly, Aaron noticed a strange man who was hiding his face being near the Lord's podium. The guard discovered that it was Dornoy they had recently checked at the entrance to the fortress. He didn't understand what he was doing here. Suddenly, there was a powerful explosion. No one understood what happened, or how it happened. People in panic began to leave the area, fearing that they might have been hurt, but wondering what had exploded. There was another explosion. Everyone realized that this situation required immediate intervention. Aaron assumed their fortress was attacked again. There was an explosion, but near where the Lord and his family were sitting. Lord Fulpuz lost consciousness. The wooden platform he was sitting on began to blaze violently. This lord had always reminded Aaron of a bird, and now the real him could fly away. The guards had been ordered to find Lord Fulpuz immediately. Aaron remembered that the guards of the outer fortress were busy maintaining public order, and if the Lord died here, he would be unfortunate. The man realized that in such a case, his head would also fly off his shoulders like those criminals. Aaron pointed out to Dallas that he was incredible because the executioner kept working even in such a situation, assuring that the professionals really stood out. Dallas assured him that he was only doing what an executioner should do, for he was not capable of much more. Aaron said that in that case he also had to work, because otherwise he would suffer the fate of criminals. The captain of the guard rushed into the fire, intending to save the Lord and the other victims of the explosion. The guards tried to calm the townspeople in an attempt to prevent any thefts that might occur in the commotion. The children were confused. They didn't understand where their parents had gone and didn't know where to run to. Aaron asked the townspeople to come out of the place in order. Charlotte noticed that one of the men had pocketed a loaf. Hannah tried to calm a frightened Kana with explosions. They both realized they should get out of here. Aaron rescued some more children who were left unattended. He approached Hannah. The captain of the guards asked if they had seen anyone suspicious, citing the example of the man in the cassock. The men replied that they had never met anyone like that. Suddenly, Iran noticed Dornoy moving away from them. Vivian Fulpitz also lost a creature from the explosion that went off next to her. Aaron suspected that they were after Lady Vivian again this time, since they had failed last time. The captain ordered the 4th Brigade of Outer Fortress Guards to follow him. They began the pursuit of the outlaw. The man immediately sprang from his seat and began chasing the man who had committed the rampage and tried to get away from them. The guards realized that they would be next on the scaffold if they didn't capture the criminal. Night fell, but the guards failed to find the criminal who escaped from them. His partner asked if he remembered how they had chased Hans not long ago, but Aaron said that this time they needed to find the culprit. Werman reported that the rumored Lord survived Aaron indicated that he had a good and long life. One of the knights standing next to the Lord was hit by a shock wolf and died, thus protecting the Lord. Aaron said that these fools calling themselves knights were not to be trusted, and they noticed someone sitting in the alley. The guards noticed that they had stumbled upon another unreliable knight right there. Ben told Aaron that they hadn't seen him in a long time and that he had been injured in the resulting explosion. Aaron asked if he was hurt. The knight replied that it was the truest shame that had ever happened to him. The captain of the guard felt as if Ben was getting hit in the head every time he asked if he was a knight for nothing. Ben lost his guard and the culprit turned out to be a dark mage. Aaron poured a restorative potion on his wounds. The knight reported that there was a traitor in the ranks of the guards and advised Aaron to be careful. Suddenly they heard loud shouts. Veerman informed the captain of the guard that this screeching sounded a lot like Kale. They decided to check out what was going on. Meanwhile, the huge creature beat up the guards who intended to apprehend it. The human-like creature asked these guards what they were doing here and why they were yelling. The enemy assured that he had barely knocked them, and such a reaction was already too much, but the guards continued to yell. Kale asked the criminals to wait for a second as they waited for Captain Aaron to come running to their screams. The enemy didn't understand what it all meant. He decided not to follow the requests of these guards. Suddenly, there was a noise from the wall. Kale said that here he was, because the servants and the captain were unbelievable. Aaron said that the builders didn't try hard enough. He pushed the wall a little and it fell apart like a pile of tofu. He grabbed his opponent by the neck. The enemy did not realize what kind of monsters were in the ranks of the fortress guards. He tried to break free, but nothing worked. Aaron grabbed him with a powerful grip from which no one could escape. Kale was a gift to this appearance of the captain. The guard asked his opponent why he was so weak. He was nothing like the demon he had encountered outside the fortress. The creature realized that at this rate he was sending him to the other world, but suddenly the guard let him go. The enemy coughed. He couldn't believe that this man had spared him, not knowing what awaited him next. Aaron asked if he realized what could happen to him if he continued to resist them. The captain of the guard ordered the criminal to tell everything while he was talking to him nicely because otherwise he was finished. The criminal said that it was all the fault of a dark magician who wanted Lady Vivian's heart and assured that he was a real madman. The guards made sure he was telling the truth because the instinct of self-preservation in its purest manifestation worked. The man explained that he had made a deal with the demon through a dark mage known as the demon's servant, and that their base was in the lawless city of Tarumba. Aaron realized he was a subcontractor to the demon. He asked why the dark mage wanted Lady Vivian's heart. The criminal didn't know that. The criminal asked to believe him because he honestly did not know all the details of the captain of the guards let him live, since he was so obedient by ordering the guards to take him away. The man who made a deal with the demon was very happy that he was pardoned. He no longer resisted the guards. Aaron assured that the criminal had made the right choice. He assured that if he had made a little more, he would have dropped his skates. The captain of the guards, from the words of the demon, realized that that man is a dark magician, and his servants use already their sixes. He was also curious who this lady is. Suddenly, someone from the shadows spoke to the captain, who could not recognize who it was who was speaking to him. Carter approached the captain, stating that tonight was a very wonderful night, asking if he agreed with him. Aaron asked if Carter had really just woken up, advising him to become moderate. The captain of the guard stating that on this scale it was already useless, Carter assured that he could not control his sleep. Aaron suspected something was wrong with him, for Ben had already reported that there was a traitor in the guards. Carter reported that it was very difficult when it was impossible to fall asleep. He did not feel conscious when he did not get enough sleep. He was lost in sleep as if his mind was shrouded in a fog. The guard kept trying to talk the captain down and pulled his sword from behind his back without being noticed. Carter immediately tried to strike at the captain, but he managed to block his attack in time. The guard declared to Aaron that he would do anything to make him fall into an eternal sleep from which he would never awaken. Carter wished the captain a good night, confident that he could defeat him because he was using magic. When Carter was young, his village was struck by pestilence. People simply had nothing to eat. There was absolutely nothing to eat, so they gnawed the roots and had to catch and feed on mice. The man saw the mouse and managed to grab it to eat it because he had been without food for a long time. Then they also had to feed on live cockroaches, rats, and similar critters. Then one day there was meat on people's tables. The Carter family had a meat dinner for the first time in a long time. The whole family thoroughly enjoyed it, trying to savor it as much as possible. Carter wouldn't eat the meat because he suspected its origin and didn't want to eat it. One night, Carter realized that he shouldn't sleep a wink in this position. The family members destroyed one of their own to enjoy the meat again and satiate themselves. The younger brother was too sickly and unable to work, so the family let him go to meat. Carter hasn't been able to bat an eye since that day or night, wondering if he'll be the meat next time. The guards suspected that the captain didn't realize how much it disturbed him. Aaron continued to resist his attacks. Aaron stated that he had heard it all before and it was no good treating the captain of the guards of the 4th Battalion so lewdly. The captain threw a powerful punch, but Carter managed to dodge it in time for the fight to continue. Carter asked how he felt about his skills, assuring him that he had gotten stronger with a magical aura emanating from his eyes. Aaron assumed it was because he'd gotten a good night's sleep from Dornoy's pills. The subordinate confirmed his hunch by assuring him that it was all thanks to the candy that was given to him. The captain of the guard made sure that Carter got the power from the demon. His strength and speed increased significantly. Carter stated that she was coming. Aaron knew that this young man had always had a talent for battle, even though he had never been properly trained. Aaron noticed that this guard has replenished his magic power and intends to get rid of him. The captain of the guard did not intend to just give up and resist it. The man dodged his opponent's blow and his sword point lodged in the wall, giving Aaron the advantage. Aaron realized that Carter, despite his strength, would not have enough experience to defeat him, saying that he was like a wall without a solid foundation built on rubble. Suddenly, Carter's hand began to magically increase in size, engaging demonic power. Carter ordered the captain to shut up. She tried to land a powerful blow on him with her demonic hand. Aaron said that he understood the guardian because he too had trouble sleeping. He dodged his blow and intended to retaliate. The captain of the guard said that he forgave him and therefore asked him to forgive him as well. Carter immediately remembered his younger brother and wanted to fall asleep because of the memories. Aaron wished the guard a sound and eternal sleep. Carter realized he had done a stupid thing. Suddenly, there was another powerful explosion in the distance from Aaron, but he heard it. The captain of the guard lulled the fallen henchman to sleep with the sweetest lullaby of his life. Meanwhile, from the hole in the wall through which Hans had escaped earlier, a magical radiation was coming through. Dornoy managed to steal Lady Vivian Fullputs, but his crew was almost destroyed. The man heard the approach and was convinced that this fortress had very annoying guards. Dornoy had to leave the fortress through a hole in the wall, but he also realized it was worth it. The man kidnapped Vivian because she possessed unrestricted mana. Now Doran only had to cut out her heart and eat it to get her powers. The dark mage was stopped by the sudden voice of a man who had discovered his location. The man asked how Dornoy had managed to find this loophole, assuming Carter had told him. Aaron offered to give him a quick interview, hinting that he intended to pick up Lady Vivian. Dornoy asked who he was since he thought he would be pursued by knights. The dark mage showed his hand that was completely under the influence of demonic power. The man made sure that it was only the green captain of the guard whom he need not fear. A demon appeared behind his back. The dark mage ordered his demons to dismantle this arrogant guard. He drew his sword for defense. Suddenly, Aaron was approached by the demon that had possessed him, telling him that idleness would devour him from the inside out. Dornoy continued to cast magic spells to get rid of the captain of the guard. The demonic wolf managed to approach his opponent and bit him on his left arm. This came as a surprise to Aaron. The guard managed to get rid of that demon with a deft sword movement. The man noticed that he was affected by the cursed magic. His body became heavier, and it became painful to move. Aaron realized that he would be in trouble if this battle dragged on. He noticed that magic was emanating from the Rada. Dornoy noticed that his opponent could still stand up to him, deciding that his musculature wasn't just for looks. The mage asked if the guard could stand up against Mr. Caintel's Dark Legion. Aaron asked what kind of nonsense this was. Aaron asked what he kept such an animal farm for, suggesting that they were too few to be called a legion. The man called him an arrogant fool, ordering all demonic creatures to attack. The captain of the guard said that if the law was to be followed, the magician should have been taken alive. Aaron added that he had tricked his direct subordinate into his web and sold his soul to a demon, and so following the law would not work. The guardian in response began attacking the demonic creatures that attacked him, stating that the dark mage was sentenced to immediate execution. The dark mage noticed that the man had enough strength to break through the dark demon's defenses. Cantel stated that those pressed by the weight of punishment are sinners. He used the spell again. The dark mage tried to use the pressure to destroy the captain of the guards. Aaron noticed that he immediately began to be enveloped by some strange demonic creature. Cantel asked as he was assured it was a triple curse he couldn't escape. Suddenly the guard retorted that the dark mage should prepare to pass away because he intends it very differently. The mage noticed that his triple curse had been chopped in pieces and the approach of the guard was noticeable. Continuing to chop the curse apart, Aaron asked the dark mage what he had said about the night. Aaron assured that he hadn't heard his words and asked him to repeat what he had said. Caintel was horrified by what he saw. The enemy ordered the guard to stop showing off. He pulled out a potion that had someone's finger in it. The dark mage broke the bottle to use his most powerful spell he had. Aaron didn't realize what the slime-like substance was, but he noticed that it had begun to increase in size. The enemy claimed that this monster was summoned using the cardinal's finger. A huge dragon appeared in front of them. The dragon delivered a powerful blow with its tail, but the captain of the 4th Battalion Guards managed to avoid the blow. The dark mage was sure that some pathetic chief of guards would not be able to deal with this monster. Suddenly, Aaron managed to climb onto the dragon's tail and began to climb further up the dragon's body. After climbing higher, he tried to strike the neck of the huge dragon. A flash appeared from the blow. Aronu made sure he didn't even manage to scratch the demonic creature, deciding that the usual method wouldn't do the trick here. The guard gathered more air into his lungs and directly jumped into the dragon's huge maw. The dragon swallowed the brave man. The dark mage rejoiced at this, calling Aaron a complete fool. Caintel didn't understand why he himself went into the monster's mouth, thinking that was the end of it. Once inside, Aaron didn't understand why it was falling apart. He began to sink to the bottom. The guard was satisfied that he had managed to get in, and now the next step, he ordered his demon out. The demon that resided in the body of the guard asked why he called him. The demonic eye opened. Aaron made sure he was awake and had been quiet the whole time. He remembered his magical aura. The man asked if the demon could use that magic power. Right now, the demon noticed they were in some unknown place. The demon replied that Aaron had pestered him with his requests, calling him rude and stupid. Aaron received the magical power he desired from the demon. His sword began to emit a bright glow. The demonic entity lent him her power but asked him to promise him something. The guard was not surprised at this condition of the demonic entity. He asked what he desired. The demon asked not to be called stupid anymore. The man was surprised at such a ridiculous request. The entity didn't know what that meant, but for some reason she wasn't happy to hear it. Aaron promised not to treat it that way again. Aaron felt as if lightning was shooting all over his body, assuming it was that aura. Suddenly, there was an unpleasant sound that pierced through the dragon's body Aaron intended to get out. The dragon began screaming furiously and his body was covered with multiple cuts. The dark mage couldn't understand what was going on. He noticed the traces of aura and in the hole Aaron appeared. Kalentil couldn't believe his eyes. The captain of the guards managed to get out of the dragon's body. The criminal ceased to realize who this man was because as a guard he looked like a knight. The man assumed that the emperor had sent this man for him and how he knew about this plan, since he had not contacted anyone. Aaron continued to approach his opponent without saying a single word of explanation. Raising his sword, the guard intended to get rid of this dark mage and bring Lady Vivian back. One deft swing of his sword stripped the dark mage of his head. Aran informed that he was just a local guard. The guard was pleased that it was quiet at last. He wished Kalentil good night. After he got rid of all the enemies, he decided that he should return, taking Vivian back with him. Aaron didn't notice that some kind of magical energy started to be released from the head of the defeated opponent. The guard felt something strange begin to happen behind his back. Turning around, the man noticed that it was magic activating. After perishing, a magical seal formed under his head. Aaron hurried to pick up Lady Vivian, realizing that this dark mage would not leave them alone even after death. Grabbing the girl, the guard began to leave the place as quickly as possible. He noticed that a powerful beam of light had formed. Aaron was convinced that this time it was much more serious than the previous times. A huge demonic beast appeared in front of them and intended to take Lady Vivian away. The guardian decided to make his way to his feet, for he would not be able to deal with this monster alone. Aaron realized after a while that he would not be able to run away with the girl. He also did not understand why he was not paid for overtime. Suddenly, the guard heard the knowing voice of someone looking for Lady Vivian Fullputs. Nova was looking for the Lord's daughter. Spotting the monster, she used the knight's aura to strike. Then Inquisitor Joanna showed up and together with an officer of the knights attacked the demonic monster. Both girls aimed their attacks at the huge head of the opponent, who didn't pay them much attention. Aaron, along with Lady Vivian, hid behind a tree and watched their battle without daring to interfere. The knight and the Inquisitor put up a proper resistance to this huge demonic creature. Vivian started to come to her senses a little. She noticed the man but couldn't make out his face. The girl said he was arrested for kidnapping Lady Vivian. Aaron didn't expect her to come to her senses. Suddenly, he immediately slapped her face in fright and she lost consciousness again. The guard realized that he had overdone it a bit and now found himself in a much more difficult situation. The man decided it would be a good idea to cover her up while she was like this, so he pulled out the handkerchief he'd taken from Kale. Aaron stated that the chief of guard's workday was over and it was time for him to return to the fortress. Meanwhile, the girl managed to defeat the demonic monster and they set about finding Lady Vivian. Nova didn't understand where the Lord's daughter could have gone since they had almost checked everything in this place. Joanna looked around and indicated that there was a body to the north that looked like Lady Vivian. The partners managed to locate Lady Vivian, who was lying motionless in the thicket of the forest. The girls asked if she was okay, but she didn't say anything because she was unconscious. Joanna assumed she was dead, but Nova didn't believe it because something like that could have had a very bad effect on them. After the guards gathered in the Shinkarna, where no one else was but them, they discussed what had happened during the day. It had been a week since the Dark Mage's attack on Caserte's fortress. Kana was also working for Hannah, chilling beer for visitors. The lord who flew through the sky like a hawk from the explosion was miraculously unhurt, and his daughter Vivian returned alive and unharmed. So the case was closed. Aaron told everyone that Carter died on the battlefield fighting demons. He decided not to tell of his betrayal. Thanks to this, Carter's family was rewarded for his loss without even realizing it. Werman felt very sorry for Carter, who, as they had been told, had fallen at the hands of the demon. Poole stated that everything worked out the way Carter wanted it to. They gathered to mourn the loss of a comrade. Brigg decided to take Carter's example and muster up the courage to fight demons for the glory of the fortress. The captain of the guards of the 4th Battalion having offered to raise their mugs to the bravery of their comrade. Thus, Carter was able to keep the Guardian's honor thanks to Aaron. Werman informed the captain that they were likely to send a new guard in Carter's place. Suddenly, a man ran into the bar who was supposed to be the new guy. The man introduced himself as Dylan, a new recruit of the 4th Brigade of the Fortress Outer Guard. He greeted everyone. Aaron was shocked that the management had assigned to them a former mercenary with whom he had a conflict. Dylan didn't think that fate would bring him and Aaron together. He was very happy to meet a new team. Poole noticed that the new recruit was making a good impression. Brigg had a feeling that Dylan was like Poole. The recruit stated that he wanted to tell them how he fought 1,000 opponents. Werman wanted him to shut up. Aaron asked why on earth he had come to them. Hannah stated that he had said it out loud. Hannah set another beer on the table and looked angrily at Dylan, who had treated her lewdly in the past. The man asked him to stop because he intended to explain everything to her, but the girl did not want to listen to him. Hannah glanced carelessly at the man, asking what else he needed from her, letting him know she wasn't happy to see him. Dylan apologized for his past act. The guards looked at him in surprise. The man explained that it was a tradition among mercenaries to behave like this. Suddenly, Hannah smiled, assuring him it was no big deal. She pointed a loaded crossbow at his head. The girl said that working at the inn she had met such fools as Dylan many times, but if he performs next time, there will be a hole in his head. Aaron was convinced that all such Hannah was not an ordinary girl, but he decided not to tell her, so long as she was at arms. The captain of the guard turned to the new recruit and asked him to approach him, who followed the instruction. Aaron handed him Carter's sword, saying he was now in the 4th Brigade of the fortress's outer guard. The captain ordered him to do his best or he'd be out as fast as he joined the brigade. Dylan was very happy about it because he didn't expect to be accepted into the outer guards of the fortress so quickly. The recruit almost burst into tears. He promised that he would try his best not to let their rank down. It was a day Dylan, who became part of the outer pack of the fortress, many times later Poole would remember, was delighted to meet the new recruit. Dylan thought he should have just run that day, but realized there was no way to leave them now. After a while, Dylan, fully immersed in the daily routine of the outer guard, was a bit shocked at Aaron's approach. Aaron said that he couldn't sleep here or he'd skate off, assuring him to be careful. The man woke up from the blow and didn't understand how he could fall asleep without remembering what had happened before. After checking, the guards let the merchant through, who still didn't understand what had happened to him at the gatehouse. The captain of the guards ordered Dylan to repeat everything the same way, because after the case with demons, there will be a strict control of the new recruit will ask if everything is really done this way. Dylan decreed that they took the silver from the coachman and hit him a couple times as if to check if he was a demon or not, asking if the guards had such duties. The new recruit stated that it was a total bummer. He told the newly nailed merchant that 2 silver would be enough to solve the problem. Aaron made sure that the new recruit was not bad, for he had a knack for intimidating merchants. The commander realized that coins were pouring in for nothing even if he did nothing. Suddenly, Aaron heard that there was some kind of conflict at the checkpoint and decided to intervene. The man stated that they have the Fenner crest on their carriage and he is still trying to question them. Dylan replied that such a thing did not concern him, ordering him to shell out coins for the pass anyway. Suddenly, Aaron intervened in their conversation, assuring them that this guy was new and didn't know everything yet and apologizing for him. The captain of the guard noticed that there were only warriors in the carriage without any gentlemen. Aaron stated that due to recent events, they had received special orders to check everyone entering the castle grounds, and he literally insulted their master by calling him a dumbass. The man didn't expect such a thing. He felt uncomfortable because he didn't know what was going on in the fortress. The guard asked how dare the guests of their kingdom address their master in such a manner. Dylan assumed that the executioner would have a lot of work to do. The guard realized that as soon as he saw that there were no aristocrats, his attitude instantly changed. The man handed them the coins, assuring them that he had no intention of offending their master. Aran assured them that everyone makes mistakes. The guard struck reported that the Lord had ordered to check everyone to catch the demons. They let them into the fortress. Dylan was very pleased that they had managed to collect some silver coins from this wagon. The guest was angered by this attitude of the guards. After a while, Werman informed the commander that he was being sought by the order. He put on his armor and went there. Aaron didn't want to shine in the order because of the demon that had taken root on his body, but he had no other choice. Joanna opened the door to a guest who thought they already knew everything about him. Priest Blyan was glad to see the 4th Battalion commander. Aaron said hello to everyone. The guard did not understand why he had been summoned. He decided to go indoors to discuss. Blyan heard about Aran fighting a demon. He immediately turned his nose up. The priest reported that the Inquisitor saw with his own eyes. Aaron suspected that he would be accused of beating Lady Vivian. Blyan knew that the commander of the guards had saved the girl from the giant. He exhaled a sigh of relief. Aaron was glad that Joanne had not seen him use the demon's power. The priest stated that he was only from the guard squad but had fought the demon, and his courage and bravery were commendable. The priest wanted to thank him and so prepared a small reward. Aaron stated that he was embarrassed because his faith was nothing compared to theirs. He had forgotten about the past award. The priest handed him the object and told him he was now an honorary monk, asking if he liked it. The man replied that he couldn't even dream of such a gift, but he was upset thinking that they would give him money like last time. Blayan said that the Inquisitor wanted to inspect the fortress, so he asked Aaron to take over the job, since he was now one of the monks. Suddenly, the priest said he had business to attend to and had to go. Aaron didn't understand why he was dumping everything on him. Aaron realized that the priest had summoned him to trash him, determined to get back at him for it someday. The man decided to deal with the Inquisitor a little later because if she found out what was inside, his demon would crush his head like a pumpkin. Aaron asked if she was hungry, suggesting they head to the tavern he frequented. They came to a place that served fish pie, which Brigg liked very much because it was his mother's place. The captain of the guard was determined to make sure Joanna never wanted to deal with him again. The girl took the first bite and realized that this dish was a bit of an amateur, but she tried not to look like she didn't like it. Aaron laughed from her facial expression, for he realized he couldn't walk with her when there was a demon sitting inside of him. Suddenly, the girl asked if he would eat this pie. Aaron didn't expect them to offer it to him. The girl looked at him angrily as she devoured the baked fish without any disgust. The man decided that it would be better to taste the pie too, to avoid any suspicion. Aaron forcibly began pushing this pie through his digestive tract, which was eager to burst out. Joanna made sure he too ate that fish pie with the deepest rejection on his face. Aaron noticed that the girl endured this taste of making sure the Inquisitor was a tough nut to crack. The woman was very happy to see the guests eating her specialty pie so well she provided another portion. Suddenly, the girl ran out of the place without saying a word to them because she couldn't take it anymore. The hostess asked what was wrong with her, and the commander of the guards assumed she had urgent business to attend to. Aaron thought it was a glorious battle. The woman said she thought they had such an appetite that she decided one serving wouldn't be enough for them. The hostess set him another pie. He suspected it was better if she just went over his head with the mace. Then Werman came up to him and was surprised that the commander's clothes were getting better and better every day. Aaron could not think that with these clothes he will be discounted, because it is not bad to live as an honorable monk. Guard heard that the commander became a monk, decided that in this case the empire will soon come to an end. The hostess asked if they could have another pie, but the captain of the guard refused. Werman asked if the commander had heard that the Fenner family had sent warriors to guard the castle to help them, and the lord had instructed them to make them welcome. And if there were any clashes, they could increase the penalties. Aaron didn't understand why he was telling him this. After all, he was not a brigand, and there was no reason to quarrel with those who would stand guard with them. The guard realized that this was the same night they had carelessly inspected at the gatehouse. Aaron stated that getting unilaterally does not equal a skirmish. Werman was shocked by this. The man was surprised to hear the guard talk about the special instruction, assuming he was trying to set him up. Werman said that an honorable monk should not make a fuss about such an occasion. Aaron remembered that he was now a monk. The guest assumed that he had chickened out when he came face to face with him. He felt his superiority. The knight said that the guards should know their place. He gave him a flick, Aaron was outraged by such an act. Aaron couldn't stand it and threw a direct punch at the knight who didn't expect such a turn of events. Veerman realized it was a skirmish, but his commander assured him otherwise, and he decided not to arise about it. The commander of the guard stated that this is unilateral violence, which he has no intention of dealing with. The partner reported that the violence was causing even more problems. Aaron assured that there was nothing wrong with that, since he was an honorary monk. After a while, the newly arrived knight came to his senses, feeling a bruise forming on his face. Verman noticed that he had regained consciousness and noticed that he was in a different place, realizing that he had lost consciousness in the bar. The man had seen by example that this captain of the guard was quite powerful, deciding that he was more than just a squad leader. The interlocutor said that Aaron with such power could have been a soldier of any aristocratic city, assuring that it was not a matter of his weakness, because Aaron was simply too strong. Meanwhile, the coachman announced to Aaron that he was Kale of the 4th Brigade of the Outer Guard of Fortress Kasserdik. The commander of the guard slapped him. The man admitted he was Gelha of the Fener clan. He had been drinking and had let himself say too much. The other guards approached the comrade and didn't understand what he was doing. Veerman assured him that it was a way to recognize a demon in a human body. The commander of the pack summoned with the help of his brute force to detect the demon that intended to get into the fortress. The demon said that commoners dare not attack a demon in broad daylight. He decided to demonstrate his power. The men believed that this method really worked, and the commander managed to locate the demon that way. Aaron himself was surprised he was able to do it, even though he was just hitting him with a club. The captain was lucky to find a small demon, but when he learned that a week later a new demon had reappeared, he turned the whole castle upside down. Afterward, Aaron was able to see the strongest warriors of Kasserdik Fortress gathered in one place. Some warriors, upon seeing the demon, immediately drew their weapons and destroyed it on the spot without any explanation. Aaron felt a little sorry for this demon, deciding Joanna wouldn't feed fish cake next time. After the commander of the guards met Dylan, he assured him that he had done a good job today. He offered to take a bath. Aaron asked what he was doing here since he was sure Dylan didn't get along with Hannah. The voice of the hostess was heard, ordering Dylan to attend to the other visitors. Hannah asked Dylan to help, since he had apologized and shown such eagerness. Aaron made sure that indeed this tavern was too busy. She noticed Kana. The commander of the guards suggested that the place had added visitors because of the cold beer. The man realized that naturally sales would increase because beer should be cold, not warm. Aaron made sure that he could use such magic himself. He was sorry to leave Kana here alone because the magic book was too expensive and hard to find. The man suggested that an upgrade could be made. Kana noticed that he was looking at her strangely. After a while, the guards resumed their checkpoint and noticed a wagon approaching them. The guards also saw that the young man was behaving strangely despite being with an adult. The boy heard the men inside ordering them to drive more quietly, for the wagon was shaking too much. One of the men assured that if their chapter got their hands on something, he would not let it go. He asked them to shut up and watch their faces and asked Jacob to be careful what he said, because the guards might have discovered it. The man stated that they were not Karzan here and no one would put up with their jokes. The boy was worried about that. The boy informed Levi that no matter how threatening they were, if these brigands were to be interrogated, they too could be in danger. The young man chewed on that, suggesting the man come up with some plan to avoid such a thing. Levi assured Horace that everything would be all right, because he knew that in the fortress, Kasserdik, especially not smeared, and if you give them silver, they will immediately pass. The man assured them that all they had to do was get inside and they would be safe there. So they decided to unload the bandits as soon as possible and get out of here. The guards suspected something was amiss with this wagon. Dylan was ready as always to check on the guests in anticipation of earning coins. Poole noticed that it was Levi, whom they hadn't seen in a long time, assuming that it had been 6 months since the last time they had met. The man explained that fever had taken its toll, so he had been resting for a long time. Levi was surprised that there were 5 guards this time because there were always 2, but he was glad that there was no crazy guard. The man handed the coins to Poole, saying it was for their service, and he thanked him and allowed him to pass. Suddenly, Dylan asked to stop the wagon, assuring that there were more guards and more coins needed. Levi didn't realize what it was, but Poole assured him that those coins would be enough. The man assured them that if there wasn't enough, he could give them more, but the guard replied that he shouldn't. Levi realized that if they stayed here long enough, the guys they were carrying could do a hell of a lot of damage, and they needed to get inside the fortress without adventure. Veerman asked the head if he had heard the news. Aaron asked what he was talking about. His partner reported that after he found the demon, the method of inspection had changed by order of the chief of guards. Dylan noticed the men sitting in the wagon while looking around and asked them to get out for inspection. Now everyone who was on the wagon has to get out and be tested. If there was anyone suspicious among the guests, he was ordered to be beaten with a baton. Dylan struck with his baton at such a suspicious guest who was traveling with Levi in the wagon. Levi was shocked, and the other guests didn't understand what kind of interrogation was going on because they didn't understand how they could beat up anyone who looked suspicious. Aaron pointed out to Vermin that he should not do that, but he pointed out that he had done it himself. The commander replied that he had done it affectionately and hit him with his hand, for only a fool would sit still when he was being beaten with a club. Dylan told all the guards that they had demons at the gatehouse again, and the rest of the pack began to chase the intruders. The guards managed in time to neutralize the demons that tried to infiltrate the fortress. Levi was shocked by this because nothing like this had happened to them in the previous times they had traveled through. Dylan reported that he'd apprehended a suspicious type, but for some reason none of them had turned into demons. Jake just passed out. The others thought they could get through if Jake did them a favor. Aaron said that there was some noise at the checkpoint, so he went to check it out. Vermin didn't understand why he had to go there, as it was already full of guards. The man stated that he intends to make an upgrade to the mini-fridge name in mind, the Magic of Canna. Meanwhile, the girl was serving and cooling beer to the customers as usual, and did not know what awaited her. Aaron intended to take the girl to the leader. Aaron, with a kind smile on his face, asked the girl to come over to him, but it seemed to Kanna that he was up to something strange. The girl said her name was Kanna and it was not appropriate to call her such careless names. He assured her that he would not address her in such a manner again. The commander of the guards asked what magic she could use. The girl replied that magic, dice freeze magic, and she could also see through walls a bit. The man suggested that she had been taught this by some gambler. Kanna replied that the man had introduced himself as romantic. Aaron was curious to find out what kind of cutoff dared to call himself a mage. He was sure it was hard to learn from one, even if you gave him a book. Kanna reported that she learned very quickly, assuring that she could do anything. The man recalled his memories of his partner, saying that Aaron wouldn't be able to learn magic anyway, but he wanted to anyway. The girl thought that Aaron was a genius among the others, but he never succeeded. Kanna asked not to leave her. Aaron came back to reality, distancing himself from his memories. The man assured her that he was not going to leave her. Ask her not to say such nonsense, because people around him might think wrong. Aaron asked if she had any desire to learn magic. Kanna positively assured him that she did. The man suspected that Dylan was a very bad influence on the girl when they worked together. The girl confessed to Aaron that there was something he hadn't told her yet, and he decided to listen to her. Kanna tried to tell him something, but suddenly someone burst into the bar and interrupted their conversation. The girl was frightened so suddenly, forgetting everything she wanted to tell Aaron. Dylan stormed over to them, informing the pack captain that they had a very terrible trouble in the fortress. Aaron asked what had happened, and he said that everyone they had captured had escaped. The one they were interrogating bit through the wooden fetters with his teeth and made a run for it. Not having any weapons, he knocked out the armed guards. Dylan reported that he was the one who captured and stunned this criminal earlier. He asked the commander what to do now. Aaron replied that he didn't know, because it wasn't his problem. Dylan said that all the guards were being summoned to the main headquarters. The man left and said that it was too dangerous in the city, so he advised Kanna to lock all the doors, and if anyone knocked on them, let Kanna check it with his gift of clairvoyance. The girl understood the whole instruction. She wished them good luck. Aaron grabbed Dylan, saying he had to go on patrol already. Manuel was furious that the guards had let the criminals out of jail. He didn't understand how they had gotten to this point. The guards said that this was why he had suggested replacing the wooden shackles with iron shackles, because Castle Visent had long used them. Manuel ordered him not to argue, saying that one pair of iron shackles was worth as much as 5 wooden ones. Aaron stated that this foolish method was effective since the criminals managed to escape, summarizing that there was a reason why they could not sit still in confinement. The man said that he had learned about the first fugitive. The first fugitive turned out to be a man from Karzan Fortress and was a mercenary problem solver. This man had a terrible reputation in Karzan. Aaron marveled that Dylan was lucky to run into one, assuming he stunned him from behind. Suddenly, a boy who was traveling with the criminals in a wagon intervened in their conversation. Horasan asked the men who among them was the chief of guards, pointing to Aaron. He assumed it was him. Aaron was surprised that the young man called him a big guy, but decided not to respond aggressively. Grabbing his head, Aaron asked how dare he talk to adults like that. The boy asked to be let go. The man became convinced that in this world they do not educate children at all if they behave like this with their elders. Horasan stated that his teacher Levi was not guilty of anything. He asked to save his teacher. The guard said that the one who had brought the bandits from Karzon was called Levi. Asking if Aaron knew him, the boy explained that they had been threatened, and so they had to bring them. Aaron asked what they were saying about that stingy cabbie Levi. He assured the boy that his teacher would be in trouble if he helped the criminals escape from prison. Meanwhile, Levi and the rest of the criminals ran through the night city, ignoring the rain. The criminals managed to break away from the chase. They were exhausted and decided to run around the corner. The men decided to get some rest. They thought the pesky guards would not leave them alone. Levi didn't understand why the criminals dragged him along with them. He wasn't planning to escape from prison. The man didn't think the guards would start beating him during the interrogation, assuming that by such a bestial attitude they knew who they were. Suddenly, the partners heard the guards approaching and they didn't know where to get away from them. The criminals heard the guards whistle and decided to run in the opposite direction. When the guards met the criminals on their way, they realized they were being lured into a trap. The criminals asked who he was, saying that he was alone, and there were 7 of them, and started to attack him, but he resisted. Aaron, one by one, put the criminals on the floor, thus immobilizing them. The other men were shocked at this turn of events, assuming that there was no way to get away from him. Levi realized that this was the same crazy Oren he had previously encountered. One of the overconfident criminals grabbed a baton and intended to attack this guard with it. The criminal was unable to do anything. Aaron Levy didn't understand why he met this demon exactly when he became a fugitive. The man fell to the ground, begging the guard not to come near him, realizing he was finished. Levi, closed in anticipation of a powerful blow from the guard, heard footsteps approaching. Suddenly, Aaron grabbed him and asked him why he had run away, since he had only caused confusion by his action. The guards informed Levi that his apprentice was looking for him, advising him to go to him quickly or they might consider him an accomplice. Levi and Hurasan were very happy with the merger, and the charges against them were dropped. The head of the 4th Brigade of Guards, Aaron, behaved rudely and used swear words, and allowed himself to spread his hands a little crazy, but it was not worth it to judge him by these actions. Aaron asked his partner if he had figured out where the remaining bandit had run. The old man thought for a bit. The partner reported that apparently the escapee was hiding in Zone 5 of the fortress. The captain of the guards knew that Zone 5 was the Laughing Rabbit Inn and decided he had to hurry. Meanwhile, the perpetrator has already approached this hotel intending to do his business. Suddenly, guards appeared in front of him. Dylan claimed to be the one ordering him to be beaten. The voice of Scar was heard, who didn't understand how a criminal dared to appear in his neighborhood without his permission. Scar claimed to be the shadow of Fortress Kesserdick. He began attacking the criminal appearing in his neighborhood. The criminal was much more agile and managed to avoid Scar's attack by striking back at him. The guards couldn't believe that Scar couldn't put up proper resistance against the enemy. The partners realized that this criminal was very strong, so they didn't attack him. A man stated he was looking for one girl with purple hair, asking if they had seen one. The guards didn't answer him anything and started to attack him, but the criminal managed to dodge the blow. Poole managed to get in close to his opponent, but he saw his move and retaliated. The guard was wounded by a criminal who intended to get rid of them quickly and find the girl with purple hair. Poole shouted to Dylan to run, or he wouldn't be able to fight him alone. Dylan was shocked that there were 3 of them and couldn't cope against one, suggesting that in this battle they had no chance of winning at all. The partner apologized to Poole, remembering that he treated him like a little brother. Dylan knew he had to take care of his own skin, but he couldn't abandon his comrade either. The guard shouted a volley of insults about this criminal, who came to anger at it. Dylan stated that he had defeated him once and would defeat him this time too. The man slowly turned to him. The guard reported that the criminal's partners were trashed, thinking that he would also pass out from a single blow. Suddenly, the perpetrator retaliated against the guard, who started running away from him. Dylan stumbled as he ran away and ended up on the ground, deciding that this was the end of their battle. It seemed to the Guardian that if he tried hard enough, there would be some meaning in this life. Dylan didn't understand why Aaron wasn't around when he was needed so desperately. He began to use foul language. Unexpectedly, Aaron immediately appeared and managed to land a powerful blow on the criminal. Aaron managed to get to the rescue in time thanks to the screams his partner was making. Dylan was very glad that the captain had managed to get to him in time, because he realized that he could not cope with him alone. Aaron asked why he was insulting him. Dylan pretended to faint. He hadn't expected to have such good hearing. The commander of the pack decided that there was no time to find out what to do with him, because first it was necessary to deal with the criminal. The perp said they're just some lowlifes he's gonna whack. Aaron asked if he was the fool that Dylan took down at the checkpoint. The guard advised his opponent to shake it off properly, assuring him that he still had a twig stuck on his shoulder. When his opponent turned around, Aaron immediately threw a punch at him, but he managed to react in time to block it. The criminal didn't realize what he'd done, but he made sure the guard was strong. Aaron assured that it wasn't anyone's fault that he was such a fool after he immediately threw a powerful punch at him. The guard asked why his opponent suddenly lost to Dylan, and he noticed the smirk on his face. Aaron did not wait for an answer and decided to find out what this criminal was doing in his region, saying that there were no vacant jobs in the fortress. The enemy replied that he was looking for one girl who had purple hair and was small in stature. The captain of the guard immediately realized that he was talking about the Kana he wasn't going to give him. Aaron remembered past events because those guys who used Kana's magic were from Karzan. The guard was surprised that they had sent a mercenary for some mage to kidnap him. He didn't know who the customer was, but he realized that he was obviously calculating. The criminal noticed that his adversary knows this girl and ordered him to take him to her, or it would end badly. Suddenly, Dylan grabbed his sword and stealthily approached the outlaws and delivered a heavy blow. Dylan was furious at this outlaw who had taken advantage of the sweet girl Kana. The criminal was surprised that once again this guard managed to strike him a blow that was his last. Dylan declared that he was finished. He drew his sword and the criminal fell motionless to the ground. Aaron was a little disappointed, because in this case they would not be able to find out who was the customer of this mercenary. After a while, Dylan excitedly tells the audience how he managed to defeat the criminal. Dylan said that while Aaron was fighting with the criminal, he managed to stab him in the heart with a sword. Poole listened to all this with disbelief. Poole noticed that Aaron and Dylan had stopped by as well, surprised that their comrade had come to see them. Aaron asked his subordinate how he was feeling and brought him some goodies to help him recover. Dylan noticed that the captain had brought a killer pie Aaron ordered him to eat, and not to dare leave even a crumb. A completely rewound Scar asked what he'd take a Piran for 3, assuring him he wasn't allowed to eat. Poole then suggested that the commander join them since they didn't want to eat it themselves. After a while in the Bora of a laughing rabbit, Kurisan declared that Kana was very beautiful. The girl didn't pay attention to his compliment, and when she noticed Aaron's return, she immediately rushed to him. Kana provided the guard with a mug of cold beer and told him that he just wanted to freshen up. Aaron asked the girl what she wanted to be in the future. Kana did not expect such a question. The man also asked her what she wanted to do, assuming she wanted to be a knight or a high lady. Kana was surprised at the question asked and replied that she just wanted to live her life in peace. The guard smiled sweetly, promising her that he would do his best to make it happen. Aaron asked her to try harder after he went over to Hannah and started talking to her about something. The girl failed to hear their dialogue, pondering the guard's words of endeavor. Hurasan offered Kana a juice, but she remembered Dylan's words about hitting her on the head if she was molested. The merchant then informed the buyer that he had almost no low-rank potions left, stating that they were worth 90 silver apiece. The man asked the guard if he would buy. If not, he should leave the shop and not waste his time. Aaron wondered if monks could fight each other. Suddenly their conversation was interrupted, and asked why monk Ketub was asking such a sum from him, to assure that Aaron was an honorable monk. The stranger said that Priest Blyan and the Inquisitor had made the request and personally appointed Aaron as a monk. Ketub replied that it was no laughing matter, stating that in that case it would be 50 silver apiece. Aaron rejoiced at this price, realizing that the merchant had discounted almost half of the price, deciding that this was the Holy Cartel. The guard thanked the monk Ains because, thanks to him, he had managed to get the potion cheaper. The monk assured him that Aaron was entitled to these privileges, asking him to understand the monk Kedaba and his attitude. It was said that the head priest was coming to Kesserdik Fortress, so everyone else was so busy preparing. Ainsa reported that he should pay attention to his duties, asking Aaron to be careful. Noticing the young monk's behavior, the guard made sure that there were some sane people in their ranks. He thought there were only the likes of Priest Blyan and the Inquisitor. Suddenly, Aaron saw Joanna eating cheese. She didn't notice him right away, and so she continued eating her lunch. This was too sudden a picture for Aaron, and he was curious as to why one was still here. The girl continued to eat the cheese. Noticing the guard, she decided to offer him a taste of the dish as well. After the Inquisitor handed him his lunch and headed on her way to do her own thing, the guard didn't understand her action. It seemed to Aaron that Joanna wasn't quite as normal as the rest of the monks in this place. The chief of the guards was very angry, although it was more of an oversight of the Fenner clan people, and the guards realized that they had to obey orders anyway. Manuel reported that no time off will be given to the guards for the month. The subordinates were horrified by this, saying that there is a limit to cruelty, thinking that he was a real pig demon. Aaron was sure it was the boss's fault, and every time he wanted to slap those chubby cheeks and say that a month without a day off was too much. The partner asked the commander if he had heard that Fener's eldest son was traveling with them, but it was not accurate information. The guards had heard that Fener's eldest son was a candidate for knighthood. He had graduated but was unable to become a knight. Aaron knew that the order had been talking about a senior priest coming, and now Fener's eldest son had been added as well. Manuel noticed Aaron and said that Officer Nova had recently called him in. The guard was a little taken aback by this message, for he didn't know what to expect from this woman. When he came to Nova, the guard noticed that she reacted suspiciously sweetly to his appearance. The woman asked him to look closely at the location of the door, asking him to use it for its intended purpose. Nova showed him how to open the doors, assuring him it was very easy. Aaron didn't realize what had happened to her. The guard assured that he knew how to open the door. Nova asked why then he was always smashing things instead of walking around like a normal person. The woman asked if he knew how many walls he'd already destroyed. Noticing his reaction, she thought he was amused, assuming he was breaking down doors for fun. The guard said that he had no other choice, assuring that he didn't like destroying everything, because if he had been late, his boys might have been in danger. Nova pointed out that the payment for the destroyed walls had been deducted from his bonus, and he gave him 1 silver coin that remained after deducting A's repairs. Aaron didn't expect this, but he realized that he had no way to challenge the decision. The guard returned the coin to the woman, saying it was a tip, and offered to buy her something tasty and a beer, saying that if she stayed here all the time, she would get sick. The woman stated that she was about to have a nervous breakdown because of him. The guard opened the door and asked if he had come out right this time. Nova ordered him to vaporize with her voice. After a while, Veerman assumed that Nova was swearing at the commander again. Aaron replied that the water was that. The commander of the guard said it was time for them to go on patrol, and they were excited about the reward they would receive for their work. Interrogations, for which you could legally get money, were more interesting. But Aaron also liked patrolling, because people here were always doing something. The guards noticed 2 men arguing in the middle of the street. Aaron approached them to ask them to calm down. They looked at him in surprise, asking what he was offering. The guard replied that whoever won the fight would be right, and the men continued to fight. Aaron bet 1 silver that the lowly stout would win Worman bet, in that case on the big guy. Suddenly, children ran past them, and when they saw Aaron, they were frightened, not understanding why they were treating him like an orc. The guard noticed that today the street was quiet, and he wanted to participate in something interesting, but suddenly he heard that someone was extorting something. The woman asked the people who did it and who stole her silver spoon. The guards approached them and decided to find out what was wrong. The woman claimed they were just in time. The woman reported that these people stole her silver spoon, the same one that had been passed down from generation to generation. The guy assured me it wasn't him assuring me that no one wanted her rusty spoon. The girl said she didn't take it either because she had a silver mirror at home and she didn't need her spoon. The man didn't understand why he was called in at all because he hadn't committed any theft. Worman told the commander that they should not take the case as it might be too complicated. Suddenly, Aaron claimed the criminal among them, completely ignoring his partner's advice. The sentinel asked the victim when the crime occurred. The woman said she still had the spoon during dinner yesterday. The woman was going to have breakfast today, but the spoon was gone. She was sure it was them because they lived next door to her. Aaron asked the suspects where they had been and what they had been doing from last night until this morning. The lad replied that he had been cleaning hay in the evening and came home early and went straight to sleep without even having had supper. The guard knew that it was important for medieval people to eat 3 meals a day, but this guy with the appearance of a goblin hadn't eaten, and it seemed suspicious to him. The girl didn't want to tell him, stating that it was her private business and she didn't have to tell him everything. The suspect said that she had a silver mirror at home and that a lousy spoon was no match for it. Aaron knew that commoners didn't often have silver mirrors, and this also seemed suspicious to him. The man said he never left the house yesterday and was dragged here by this woman. The woman said that this man was strange because she had seen him for the first time in the fortress, and the guards seemed suspicious of this foreigner. Aaron realized that there was nothing he could do. He didn't want to resort to one method, but he had to use the last method. The guards stated that to check their belongings at the suspects' homes, he ordered them to be led to their residences. Aaron didn't know that the incident he'd taken on out of boredom would lead him to such a result. Wehrman was outraged that the suspects refused to do so, stating that they did not ask their permission. The guards suggested that the homes had scriptures or red flags that were being misused, and this could have had serious consequences. Noticing the suspects' reactions, Aaron felt the 3 of them tense up from the search. The commander of the guards decided that it would be even better because he was bored and assumed it would be interesting. Upon entering the house, the guards made sure that the suspected girl did indeed have a silver mirror. The girl said that some silver spoon does not go with this mirror in any comparison, asking now if they realize that she is not guilty of anything. The suspect's house looked pretty plain, and it was very suspicious that there was a silver mirror in this house. Aaron decided that there really wasn't a silver spoon here. The guard noticed that she had a lot of men's underwear. He thought that there was a very strange smell in the house, according to the girl she lived alone, but the house smelled of a middle-aged man. Aaron concluded from the objects he saw that this girl was by all accounts walking around and hosting men. The guard understood that immoral behavior, it could also be classified as a crime. The girl offered them a snack. After accepting the pie, Aaron decided that her rambunctious lifestyle wasn't that important, and so turned a blind eye to it. After the guards went to the next suspect's house, they noticed a lot of books, deciding he was familiar with ink. They noticed he had some romance novels. Suddenly, while looking around, Aaron noticed that there was something between the books. He realized it was some kind of bracelet. After trying on the bracelet, the guard decided that it fit perfectly with his clothes, and if he discreetly took it away, nothing would be noticed. Wehrman asked if the commander had heard anything strange, and he explained that his shoulder was acting up. Aaron realized that the demon's belching had almost gotten him caught. He asked him not to do it again. Wehrman asked what kind of bracelet it was. Assuming that the commander had a well-developed sense of smell, Aaron assured him that it looked good. The landlord informed the guard that if he liked the bracelet, he could have it. Aaron was happy about that. The commander of the guards thanked for such a gift, stating that he too was innocent. The man stated that he had said all along that he was innocent of anything. Aaron stated that the patrol was fun. He was curious if there would be any more souvenirs. They followed the last suspect. Wehrman pointed out that since 2 of them were innocent, there was a high probability that the perpetrator was the 3rd. They noticed that he was acting a little strange. Aaron replied that he knew all of this and knew without him what he would do in a situation like this. The man said that once they got into the house, they would need to check every corner of the house. The guards arrived at the last suspect's home and were shocked by what they saw. In front of them stood a brushed horse. You could see from it that the guards were watching. It didn't understand how he'd lived in a stable. The boy apologized to Sharberto for coming back too late. The suspect pointed out to Sharberto that it was the first time they had guests at their house, and he decided to give her some special hay to eat. Aaron made sure that this guy was too fond of his horse. Wehrman reported that it was a famous horse breeder in the fortress of Kezerdik. The commander of the guard didn't realize who the 3 suspects ended up committing the crime. Suddenly, a woman came up to them and explained that she had found her silver spoon, which had gotten lost in the straw. The woman thanked the guards for their work, and they realized that they had done nothing useful. Aaron wasn't happy that they had wasted so much energy because of the woman, and there had been no theft at all. After Canna served the guard a cold beer, he thanked her because it was a good time. Aaron noticed the strange expression on the girl's face, who didn't take her eyes off him for a second. The man asked what she wanted from him. Then he shifted his gaze to the mug and was shocked at what he saw. The ice in the beer was in the form of flowers. He realized that Kana had been practicing magic all this time. The girl thrust her nose up, assured him that she had tried her best on this. The man praised him for his effort. Aaron made sure he was right about her and she could be useful to him. He continued to praise her. It seemed to the guard that the girl's efforts were directed a little in the wrong direction, for he didn't understand the point of giving a beautiful shape to the ice in the beer. The man decided not to talk about it with her, noticing that she was very happy at the words of praise. Aaron didn't want to ruin her mood, realizing that he needed to find her a spell book faster. The guard noticed that Kana was staring at his new bracelet and didn't take her eyes off of it at all. The man asked her what she liked about the bracelet, assuring her that she had some unusual taste. The commander of the guards decided to give Kana this bracelet. She was very happy about this unexpected gift. Aaron noticed that she really liked this slightly old trinket that looked glorious. The guard assumed that the pale guy wasn't a bad person, deciding to thank him in return later. In the meantime, the man began to get chills. He assumed that he was sick, because that was why he did not want to move to the suburbs, because there were only losers and savages here. It seemed shameful to him that a commoner would dare to grab a white tower mage by the breasts, because in the capital it was unthinkable. The mage realized that that guard could be called the epitome of ignorance and savagery in this fortress. The man couldn't believe that this rude man was the chief of guards who dared to come to his house. The man had anticipated such a thing, so he had put magic disguises everywhere beforehand, and the spellbook looked like an ordinary novel, realizing that he should have been more careful. Earlier, the mage had seen that the pack commander had discovered his bracelet and intended to take it for himself. The man knew that such a scum shouldn't touch this object, but after Iran put the bracelet on, the magic didn't work on him. The mage didn't believe in such a thing because this guard didn't even know how to control aura, assuming that he was some kind of unusual guard. Aaron ended up taking the bracelet, not suspecting that the man was for real, but the man also didn't realize who he was. He stopped thinking about it, realizing that everything was dangerous and he could be exposed. The man's business was to find information about who Lady Vivian loved. After a while, Brigg turned to the commander to ask if he thought it was strange. The guard asked why the Fenner warriors were so shunned. One of the warriors overheard their conversation. Aaron assumed the warriors had gotten into a scuffle with one of the guards and had gotten what they deserved. Brigg assured him that could not be the case. The men's conversation was interrupted by the sounds of an approaching carriage. They decided to check what had arrived. Aaron realized that this was the carriage of the Fenner family and their fortress awaited the eldest son of the family. Brigg also thought about the fact that the carriage was the one Fener's eldest son had been talking about. The commander of the guards ordered his partner to bow his head as the aristocrats approached them. Fener's carriage passed without any inspection. The young man was pleased to see the bowing guards. Aaron made sure that this carriage didn't even slow down, and there was no point in talking about inspection at all, having made sure that the aristocrats were so brazen. The guards saw another carriage approaching, and this time they couldn't tell who it was. The carriage stopped on the bridge. Aaron asked where they were from. Suddenly, a guy came out of the carriage. The young man told them that they came from their Karzan, and he was the manager of the third-ranked Sean. The captain of the guard was surprised that it was a wagon from Karzan. Thinking that they had come for the bounty from the cities he had a very different impression of. Sean thanked the guards for graciously allowing him passage into the fortress. Brigg noticed that today there were too many big carriages from high persons and he felt uncomfortable. Aaron asked his partner to watch his words when he said such things out loud because something could happen. After the guards noticed that another carriage approached them and a monk got out. The man realized from the look of him that he was the honorable monk Aaron and wished that the sun would shine its light on him. Aaron realized that this is the order's carriage, and knowing that this man is the head of the monastery, he put his fist to his head. The head of the monastery indicated to the guard that he should have raised his elbow higher, deciding that he had strong faith. As the report indicated, he hoped they would have a chance to socialize. Brigg pointed out that Rod Fenner had already arrived at the fortress. The men from Karzan and the head of the order, realizing that Aaron was going to have his hands full, agreed with him. After a while, Aaron was approached by Nova, who asked what happened since the orange had left his fruit sanctuary. She resented his joke. The woman asked if he kept it at his place, asking him to pull out. They didn't see Sean walk up to them. Aaron pulled out the bags in which was that past enforcer from Karzan, assuring that the heads of the others were also there. The young man was shocked by this. Sean stated that what the bounty was declared for monstrously turned him inside out. Aaron saw that Sean could talk and vomit at the same time. After the guy asked the guard to leave the leftovers near the carriage, explaining that he had a weak stomach. The guy assured them that they were lucky to catch this criminal, who had a bad reputation since he was called the Wolf Ghost. The gang he belonged to was Karzan's Headache. Aaron wondered when he heard about this gang, because they were looking for Kana, and he wondered if they would send the executor afterwards. After loading the breathless bodies, Sean announced that his business was done and he could rest. The guy asked me to tell him where in Kassadhk Fortress the most delicious inn was. The guy's hobby was to visit good places. Aaron thought about it, realizing that it was hard to call the inn where the fish pie was served delicious. The guard said that in the 3rd district, the most famous Hesna, they went there together. Sean was very grateful to him, and Iran intended to find out from him about the gang that was connected with Kana. Afterward, they entered the inn and were brought a specialty called cheese pie. The man said that his wife, who was known as the first beauty of Kassadhk Fortress for one such, but Iran asked Sean to ignore the talk and try the pie. Sean stated that this place was much better than he could have imagined. He had heard that there was a lot going on at Castric Fortress, and he was worried about going to this place. Aaron also tasted the pie and said that Karzan had been quite worried about the Lone Wolf lately, and was already taking extreme measures. Lone Wolf was one of the 3 gangs that were in Karzan's territory besides Ice Knife and Cute Rabbit, which was more like a people's guild. The guy said that the Ghost Wolf was also a member of the Lone Wolf gang. Having heard about the Cute Rabbit, Aaron thought that these bandits were complicated. The guard asked what kind of man the Lone Wolf gang leader was. Sean hadn't expected such a question. The young man answered that his name was Philip, and said that he was the illegitimate son of some aristocrat, and tried to destroy the eldest son but failed and was kicked out. Sean added that the worst part was that his trait was a strong sense of possessiveness. One day, the Ice Dagger men came into his inn and took the cheap blade that was hanging there for decoration as a joke. It was a minor incident that could have been billed as a joke, but Philip was angry that they had taken his item and he returned the blade to himself. Aaron was convinced that these people were like real wolves who, if they bit once, would not let go until the prey stopped breathing. The guard suspected that Philip considered Kana his property, thinking that he hadn't yet realized that if he bit the wrong one, he risked losing his fangs. Aaron, having heard this information, decided to go there to avoid Kana being captured. The Guardian was sure that 3 days would be enough for him to solve everything in Karzan. He had clearly decided to go on a business trip to the city. Nova was surprised that the commander of the guards volunteered to ride with them to the city. They were finishing loading their belongings. Aaron asked Nova if she would take the oranges to the sale, deciding to screw with her again in this way. The woman asked why he suddenly wanted to go with them. Aaron replied that he had business in Karzan. Nova allowed him to go with them after asking if he had gotten permission from the head of the guards. The servants asked the officer that she really intended to take Commander Aaron with her, for she was to be accompanied by the fortress's inner guard. The woman replied that if the guards were not in place, Fener's men would take their place, in which case it would be better to focus on the outer guards rather than the inner guards, assuring him that it would be effective to take one Aaron with him. Knight thought this was too arbitrary, for he came just before they left and declared that he would go with them. Nova explained that this is why they call him Crazy Aaron. The Knights decided not to challenge the officer's decision. The woman was sure that this time, thanks to Aaron, the problems would be solved very quickly. Earlier, Nova had told Aaron that at this rate he would be appointed head and given a higher status, but he assured her that he didn't need it. He was satisfied with what he had. Aaron said that for crazy people like him, the position of commander of the guards is the right one. Nova realized that if you tried to hold him forcibly, he might try to escape from the fortress. The woman decided not to push Aaron unnecessarily, deciding that let him as a fool stay in Caserdic Fortress as long as possible. After all preparations were completed and the crew set out on their journey to the town of Karzan, Aaron asked why Nova was wearing a dress. He thought that since she was going to the city, she decided to dress up, but she asked him to shut up. Sean informed Nova that he'd bought some tasty cake, suggesting that she'd join him in tasting it. The woman replied that she was a bit busy and if he had no one to chat with, he could suggest the captain of the guard. Noticing her reaction, the guy didn't understand what he'd done wrong because he just wanted to be friends, so he called her Miss Orange. The man said that it's not only the name, but also the intonation is important, asking for vowel letters. Sean kept trying to offer Nova a cake, calling her Ms. Orange, but the woman ignored him. After a while, they reached the town of Karzan. The streets of the town were crowded with locals. Nova informed her partners that she would be at the city council while she worked, and she didn't need guards suggesting Aaron look around the city. For now, she asked them to come to this tavern tomorrow by noon. The woman told Aaron that they weren't in Caserdyke, and not to think of pulling any nonsense by ordering him to use the doors when they went anywhere. Aaron assured her that the city's rules for opening doors were no different than theirs. After they said goodbye, Aaron assured that he would see her tomorrow. Sean followed along with him. The woman didn't understand why there was no response to her words to not pull any nonsense. The commander of the guards didn't answer her anything because he had plans that might have gotten out of her instructions. Aaron asked the young man to show him the city, addressing him as Shoba, who assured him that his name was Sean. The boy asked if he wanted to try the most delicious inns in Karzan, saying that there was a place called the Unruly Pig that had excellent pork. The man replied that they would visit the inn next time because tonight he was going to destroy the leader of the Lone Wolf. The young man was shocked by his statement because it seemed to him that it was impossible to do such a thing alone. Sean assumed the head guard was joking again and they headed into the center of town. The boy decided that he would not fall for his jokes again, deciding that he underestimated the third-ranking manager too much. He decided to play along with Aaron, saying that he was fed up with Philip. Aaron said that was fine, and since they were on the same page, they should hurry up. Sean was surprised that the guard was calm, thinking he was pretending not to expect things to go wrong. The man suggested visiting the guys from the White Rabbit Guild for starters. Sean corrected him because the guild was called Cute Rabbit. Sean was sure that Aaron's joke had gone on long enough. He decided to see who could hold out the longest. They came to an inn in Karzan, where there were many mercenaries. Contrary to the name, the partners noticed that these guys were pretty tough. Sean thought Aaron was about to tell them it was a joke, and they'd leave the place. The young man realized that if he intervened now, he would be admitting defeat. He smelled a foul odor. Suddenly, the guy informed the guard that he would wait for him outside. He was surprised at his reaction. Sean stated that the smell of sweat and alcohol was horrible. One of the mercenaries heard that he didn't like their smell and asked who they were. Aaron realized that the guy had been foolish to provoke the mercenaries. After a while, they visited the Drunken Widow's Inn, the first inn in Karzan under Ice Dagger's watch where they shouldn't go anywhere else. Until they got in, Sean thought Aaron would try to hold him back, but the guard wouldn't do it, and the girls pounced on the manager. Night came, and they left the Drunken Widow's Inn, and now Aaron was sure everything was ready. Sean didn't know what he was talking about. The guard said that everything was working out perfectly and asked him to take him to the Inn of the Lucky Player. Sean pointed out that this gambling house is run by a lone wolf and is much more dangerous than the previous inn. The man asked what he was talking about because that's where they had to go, and the guy began to suspect that it wasn't a joke. Aaron added that they would go there to catch this ringleader Philip and get rid of him. The young man froze in place, realizing that he was really going to take down the lone wolf leader tonight. The guard showed with all his appearance that he intended to see it through. Sean asked if this was all a joke. Aaron assured him it was serious and asked him to show him the way. Aaron informed them that there wasn't much time left until lunch tomorrow and they should hurry. A short time later, a fire started in one of the city's neighborhoods. Some houses were engulfed in flames. The guard listened to his boss talk about how he intended to catch the big guy and sizzle him. The man ordered not to stand a pillar to post, but to eliminate the fire as a fight with the Ice Dagger guys broke out. The guard of the lone wolf was called Gino. He stood quietly and watched the bacchanalia that was going on around him. Nights in the capital were always noisy, but on this day things had gone over the edge. Gino thought the start of the war was the same. The guard realized that even so, it was his job to guard this place because he was the guardian of the lone wolf. Gene noticed that some unknown man in a cape approached him, and he tensed up. Aaron wished the guard a good night, noting that he was having a hard time at this hour. Gene assumed that the man was just drunk. Aaron said that the town was in turmoil and he didn't make a move. The guard replied that his job was to guard the entrance and nothing more. Aaron reported that there were no guards in the other guilds, suggesting that the lone wolf leader was a real coward who was very afraid of getting killed. The genome advised him to watch his words, assuring him that Philip would not die, for he was the most ruthless man on earth. The guard knew Philip had a magic weapon that could incinerate anyone on the spot. However, the scariest was the knight who was personally guarding the guild leader of the Lone Wolf Guild. When Aaron heard about it, he said that he didn't even think that Philip could have a personal guard. Gene said that he liked to drink and his right arm was badly damaged, but he was still a real warrior. Philip had 40 men in command who obeyed him unconditionally and no one could touch him. Aaron stated that this was good information that he didn't suspect. He thanked Jenny. The stranger told the guard that he could have passed him by, but he gave the impression that he saw him as his future. Aaron promised to put in a good word for him with the next leader, and Jen decided that the man was drunk. The man said that in the world there are no eternal knights or aristocrats or emperors, because it was worth cutting the throat, and they died. Aaron advised Gino that when Philip passed away, he should quit the job and start over. Jen realized that the man had taken advantage of the moment and went inside. He thought about the words he had heard. Once inside, Aaron began to look around at the people around him, trying to find Philip or those who were related to him. A lot of mercenaries were having fun, and none of them noticed the strange man walking in on them. The captain of the guard realized that Philip had about 40 men under his command, and if you took into account those who were hanging around outside, it was 35. Aaron paid the cute rabbit an ice dagger to cause a bit of a stir because they too had some spats with the lone wolf, so they all easily agreed to do his bidding. With some of Philip's men outside, he sent Sean to a hotel so he wouldn't get hurt. Noticing a man drinking in the corridor, he decided not to deviate from his plan and, noticing his presence, asked who he was. Aaron realized that this was the knight who had been protecting Philip, deciding that he wouldn't let him pass so easily. The knight took another sip, deciding that he could easily overpower this fool. The man saw that although the knight's arm was hurt, he could hold the bottle, making sure he was a complete scumbag. Even though Aaron practiced every day, he wasn't sure if he could defeat him. He sensed that the knight possessed a strong aura. Suddenly, the opponent changed in his face. He broke the bottle and started attacking Aaron, who had prepared for defense. Aaron noticed that his opponent's movements had changed, as well as he realized that he possessed destructive power. The man knew that usually when a normal sword and an aura sword collided, everything would be blown to shreds. Therefore, it is customary among knights to first deprive the enemy of his weapons and then only destroy him. The knight noticed that his opponent was not as simple as he seemed at first glance, and continued to push against him. Aaron managed to use his strength to change the trajectory of his opponent's sword. He was surprised by it. The man continued to resist the knight because he had no other choice but to get to Philip. The knight attempted a series of strikes, but Aaron managed to fend them all off. He spotted the impending strike. The forces were equal and the chances of victory were half. The knight miraculously managed to dodge the sword of his opponent, which passed near his neck. The outcome of the battle was decided by a small gap, and Aaron managed to finish off his opponent with a lightning strike. Aaron noticed that his sword was badly worn after the fight with the knight, and took a breath and threw it away. The captain of the guard noticed that the enemy had lost all his teeth. He decided to pick up the knight's sword. After making a few trial moves, he made sure that this weapon healed very well in his hand. Aaron decided to take his opponent's sword, promising to remember him in return, because he was an honorable monk. Meanwhile, Nova woke up to hear some noise going on outside. Getting up, the woman didn't understand why the city streets were so noisy. She decided to look out the window. Nova opened the window and tried to find out what people were doing that was making such a ruckus. Seeing that the city was on fire, she didn't understand how such a thing could happen. She noticed people trying to put it out. Looking the other way, the woman noticed that there had been some kind of skirmish between two gangs in the street during the fire. Nova didn't understand what was going on here at all. She suspected that Eren might be involved in all of this. It seemed to the woman that he could not have done such a thing alone. She continued to watch the battle. Meanwhile, Eren advanced down the corridor. He passed several rooms in search of Philip. As he passed by, he noticed a door that stood out among the others. Deciding that since all bandits like gold, Philip must be there. Without any hesitation, the man kicked down the door and went inside. He noticed that this room was decorated to perfection. Assuming that Philip was obsessed with aristocrats, suddenly several men appeared in front of him and asked who he was and where he was going without permission. One of the men said that since he had dared to be seen by the four kings, he wouldn't dream of leaving this place alive. But Eren was of a different opinion. Eren stated that they were more like the three piglets than the four kings, adding that they stood away because he was ashamed. The man became furious at such words, saying that he would regret what he had just said. Philip asked how he had managed to get into this room, since Sir Beharton was supposed to be guarding the corridor. Eren replied that he had not seen someone who could be called Sir. They noticed that he had the sword of Beharton. Philip said he had paid a tidy sum for the sword and asked why he had come to them. Eren replied that he had come to send Philip to the other world. The four kings were surprised at his words. When Philip heard this, he laughed, saying that he was a very funny warrior and assured him that he wouldn't succeed. The Lone Wolf Guild leader asked if he was confident in his strength since he was saying such a thing. Philip reported that behind him were Count Bacart, the steward of the first rank of Fernui, and also Abbott and Garam. The man stated that the smallest thing, and he would have a direct link to the imperial court. He asked if the warrior could handle all of them. Philip indicated that he could turn a blind eye to his rudeness if he kissed his foot, but Eren immediately blew his head off. The others present were horrified by what they saw and did not understand what to do in such a case. Eren stated that Philip had entered his sword range with his feet, adding that he would not be affected by such threats. The man said that he had seen more than that in his life and therefore was not afraid of anything. After the room burst into flames, Eren was convinced that it was the magic the guard had told him about. He realized that Philip had not just gone to him. The man turned to the four kings who stood still and could say nothing. Eren announced his intentions to interview for the position of lone wolf leader, asking him to tell him his strengths. The man was shocked because a few minutes ago they had been chatting with Philip and now this unknown man had taken his place. Dante made sure the warrior didn't even bat an eye at Philip's threat and slit his throat. Philip's henchmen were curious as to what this man was trying to accomplish and noticed the smirk on his face. Eren said that if they didn't pass the interview, he would burn them at the stake. One of them decided to be the first. The man reported that he was called a human meat grinder. He had cracked over 100 skulls. The others also began to talk about themselves in a better light. Suddenly, a man appeared in front of them and struck out at one of his minions. Eren rejoiced at this action, suggesting that this warrior might be a worthy replacement for Philip. The man introduced himself as Dante. He was in charge of running the lone wolf operation, stating that he was to be the head. The next day, the man reported that yesterday was the biggest clash of the three guilds. They did not have the exact damage data yet, but they knew that there were no casualties among the ordinary citizens. Suddenly, Sean burst into their room, apologizing for oversleeping and being late for the meeting. The man asked who he was. The guy said he was the third-ranking manager, Sean. The guy was assured that he didn't need to apologize because he brought a gift, but the guy said that it wasn't meant for them. Sean explained that he just met a friend on the way over and he gave it to him and didn't have time to leave it at home, so he brought it with him. The man was surprised that the guy was so late and so clueless. He decided to forgive him for the first time by asking him to take his seat. Sean heard that unlike the other two guilds, there had been no word from the lone wolf. They were not the type to keep quiet at the meeting. They decided that it was imperative to find Philip sooner rather than later. Suddenly, the guy was approached by one of the partners sitting next to him. He looked at him questioningly. His partner called him brave for letting himself be late. He assumed he didn't care because he wasn't getting promoted anyway. Sean didn't usually pay attention to Pierre's barbs. The young man assured that Sean had to give something of value to the chapter by offering to find a job at his level. Suddenly, Sean ordered his interlocutor to close his mouth. Pierre didn't expect to hear him say something like that. The guy claimed it was a gift from his friend and he dare not say that to him. He jumped him. The head noticed their altercation and didn't understand what they were doing during the meeting. Earlier, Eren broached the subject of promotion, but Sean said that he comes from the common folk and has no chance of promotion unless he can bring Philip's head in. Suddenly, because of the clash, Sean's box collapsed and Philip's head fell out of it, and everyone was horrified by the picture. Earlier, Eren had ordered the men to find Philip's head and package it. As a gift, Dante had fulfilled everything to the best of his ability. Dante asked Eren what he was going to do with the Lone Wolf Guild, assuring that if there were any requests, he would help. Eren replied that he had to deal with it himself, since no one was going to mess with Kana now and he had no more business here. The man was shocked that he had destroyed the chapter just because some girl was in danger. Eren also asked him to follow up with the manager Sean and give the genome something else to do. Eren told Dante that he could do as he pleased since he was now the new leader, ordering him not to force him to come to them again. Dante said he would continue to report to Eren when he left and so would send gold. After some time, Iran met with a mage who claimed that he had not brought even dust with him to this world. The commander of the guard stood quietly waiting for him to complete his spell. The demonic entity asked what was going on. The man ordered him to sit quietly. After the spell, Aaron stated that the purification magic looked good. It was cleaner than after the bath. The mage thanked him, reported that he owed him 20 silver. Aaron asked the mage if he was going on business trips and pointed out that he had a mage as an apprentice. And if he came to Kasserdik and showed him a couple of techniques, he would pay him in gold. The mage replied that he could move to Kasserdik Fortress. The commander of the guards decided that things were not going well with this mage. Even though the people here would hardly pay for a bath, the mage asked him to wait for a while. The mage cleaned his shoes, informing him it was free of charge. Aaron made sure it wasn't a bad service. As he left, the guard said that when the mage was ready, he should stop by Kasserdik's fortress and ask about Aaron. Nova noticed that the whole town was on its ear. She didn't understand why this happened the day they came here. The woman arrived at the meeting place apologizing for being late. Nova noticed that the guard had fallen asleep on the spot and did not react to her words. She decided not to wake him up. The woman first saw Aaron's face as he slept. She thought it was cute and sat down next to him. The rest of the residents went about their business without paying attention to the intruders. Fortress Officer Kasserdik began to sort through the documentation while Aaron continued to sleep. The night had been sleepless, so he slept half the day. Aaron said that they would have to stay another night, saying that thanks to Nova he had gotten a good night's sleep. But the woman asked him to keep quiet, explaining that she had things to do. Nova asked why he was up at night, hoping he hadn't done anything. Aaron replied that he hadn't broken any walls. The woman asked him not to tell him about the rest because she didn't want to be an accomplice, being sure that he had definitely started the scuffle. Nova stated that she only had one question. She asked what his armor was. Aaron replied that it was a souvenir because in this world, the most valuable thing is iron. Nova did not share his taste. The man said that he had a souvenir for her too. He gave her an armor to protect her heart. The woman pointed out that it would be too small for her. Then the guard assured her that it was just right for her, but Nova assured her that it was too small. Aaron informed the officer that she was overestimating herself, but the woman continued to insist that the armor was small. Suddenly, their argument was interrupted by the shout of the coachman. They did not realize what had happened. Then arrows flew into the carriage. Aaron noticed that these arrows had stone tips on them. Nova asked him what they were. The guard reported that they were attacked, assuring them that even mercenaries don't use such terrible arrows. As he stepped out of the carriage, he noticed that their wagon was surrounded by a large number of goblins. The guard stated that there were about 20 goblins. Nova began to worry. Aaron didn't understand why there were so many, suggesting that there might be a goblin village nearby. Aaron motioned for the woman to stay inside while he dealt with the goblins. Despite being outnumbered, the Guardian began to close in on the attacking monsters, destroying them one by one. Grabbing one goblin by the head, he began to scatter the rest of the approaching ones with it. The commander of the guards noticed that more goblins were approaching them, intending to capture him. Aaron knew that usually if 5 or 6 goblins were killed, the others would give up and run away, but these ones kept pouncing. Nova stepped out in carriage asking if he was done with destroying the goblins. He answered positively. The guard reported that these monsters seemed to be controlled by someone, and he thought it was suspicious. The woman made sure that he managed to single-handedly slay all the attacking goblins. Aaron stated that this black slime and there were traces of black magic everywhere. Nova was surprised that someone managed to control living goblins. The man said that it is quite possible, just the level of magic will be different, and the question is what such a mage has forgotten in these parts, stating that Kasserdite has already been attacked by a black mage. The woman assumed they were after Lady Vivian. Aaron said they should return to the fortress first. After a while, they managed to successfully reach the fortress without encountering any more enemies along the way. The guards noticed that the fortress had been too quiet lately, and they knew that Aaron had gone to Karzan, so they thought that this was the reason for the silence. One of the guards was glad they didn't have much work to do. They noticed the wagon approaching. The guards noticed Aaron's return along with Nova's officers. Aaron saw his acquaintances intent on finding out what he had brought with him. The guards were surprised, for Aaron was traveling in a wagon, and they tried to find out what had happened. Aaron replied that there were many monsters on the way back, and he had to deal with them. Suddenly, a monster body part fell out of the bag. The guard asked what this abomination was. Aaron replied that it was a goblin sex organ that helps raise male energy. The captain of the guard added that it's not sold anywhere as you can't get it, and so he took it for himself. One of the guards asked Aaron to sell this body part for cheaper. He was interested to see the effect and replied that it was worth 70 coins, but he was ready to give it to him for 60. Nova intervened in their conversation, ordering Aaron to get on with it, then stating that she needed to wash up soon. Aaron handed the guard the goblin's genitals, assuring him that he needed to hurry. The penis hit right on the head of the guard, who didn't expect such a thing. His partner started laughing with him. Aaron stated that he has returned to the fortress of Kasserdik and intends to continue harrowing it from the undead. Afterwards, all members of the 4th Guard Battalion received souvenir armor brought to them by the commander. The guards were overjoyed at such a treasure. Dylan declared that he had never received such a thing, even from his own father. Dylan tried to find out what happened in Karzan. Aaron replied that it was an accident. The other guards were sure he was connected to it. Hannah intervened in their conversation, asking them to disperse. She was carrying mugs of beer to the visitors. The man asked Hannah what had happened to her tavern, and she said that she had run out of food and had nothing to sell. The owner took all the food and ordered her to clean up. The girl reported that the owner even took away the pickled meat he was putting only for their sustenance. Aaron suspected that Hannah had been drinking a little dill and decided to keep away from her. Vermont noticed the girl's new armband and assured her that it suited her very well, which was given to Hannah by Aaron. The men noticed that after the compliment, the girl calmed down a bit. Aaron asked if anything had happened while he'd been away. Kale assured him that nothing had. The guard said that while the commander was away, the order came looking for him, adding that the new head of the monastery looked very stubborn. His partners told him rumors that a new squad was being assembled in District 6. Aaron made sure there was a lot going on in the fortress despite Kale's negative statements. The captain of the guard knew that the 6th district was in the possession of father and son Jackson, so he decided to find out who dared to assemble his squad there. The guard decided to go there and asked Vermont to go with him, who obediently followed him. The partners went to the 6th district. Around noticed that there was an odor of sewage on the street. Vermont stated that thanks to the captain, there was less of that going on lately. Wehrman noticed a crowd gathered in the distance and reported it to his commander. The men noticed their appearance, which they were not very happy about, because they had heard about the guards. Aaron approached them and asked one of them to come over to him to talk to him. The man said hello to him and thanked him for patrolling. He asked what was wrong. The guard captain of the 4th Battalion looked at the man suspiciously. Aaron saw him for the first time in the fortress and tried to get his name, but he introduced himself as Jojin. A guard asked Jujin what he was forgetting in the fortress of Khazardig, stating that he had ugly friends. The man replied that this was the homeland of his late mother. He had heard that it was a good place, and so he moved with friends and was going to find work in this quiet fortress. Jujin continued to behave himself, so Aaron had nothing to dig up, because if he had been rude, the interrogation would have been easier. The interlocutor replied that he understood everything, and they were glad that they had no problems with understanding. Suddenly, Aaron ordered them to undress. The men did not understand such an ambiguous order. The guard explained that it was the best way to find out if they were connected to the demons. The men removed their outer clothing. The captain of the guards noticed the absence of any trace of demons, but noticing the tattoos, he concluded that they were not doing their usual work. Jojin tried to make a joke of it, assuring him that things happen in life, and he handed him a silver piece. Aaron realized that these guys were bandits, but he couldn't pick on them. Thinking that Zhaojin might complain, he decided to visit the cathedral. Wehrman wished the commander a good journey, and they went their separate ways. Blyan saw Aaron and said he had a request for him to send Brighton to the other side. The guard did not understand normally that such a thing was being asked of the priest. He wondered what they did not share. Aaron decided to start by finding out who Brighton priest was surprised he was out of the loop. Blyan explained that he was the new head of the monastery, calling him the Devil of Hell. Aaron assumed that the priest had gone completely insane. The priest assured the guard that he would see for himself when he saw Brighton, adding that he was reciting terrible prayers and was fed up with the morning service. Aaron thought that was what a priest was supposed to do. Blyan stated that if he didn't want to destroy him, then let him beat him properly. He handed him an advance, and if he did well, he would get several times that amount. Aaron was shocked that the priest had ordered the destruction of the head of the monastery. He wondered who Brighton was that caused such a reaction. After a while, Brighton was surprised that the honorable monk did not know the prayer he asked to repeat after him. Aaron replied that he had not learned the Holy Scripture because he was busy. The head of the monastery said that in his years he had read the treatises day and night. The head of the monastery handed him the treatises and assured him that the next time he met him, he would check his knowledge of prayer and asked him to come to the temple as soon as the sun rose. Brighton said that Aaron was now also a member of the order and it was important for him to strengthen his faith, assuring him that he would need it someday. Aaron assumed that this was the sermon the others listened to every day. He gave serious thought to Blyan's suggestion. The sentinel noticed that Brighton was very fond of pointing out mistakes, and the rest of the servants started dinner. The commander of the guards decided that if he ever saw the duplicity of the head of the monastery, he would immediately use his fists. Brighton asked the children to stand straight and not wiggle, explaining that when they were waiting for the blessing, they should stand straight. Aaron didn't understand why he was so blameless. The head of the monastery personally went around and blessed the children. Aaron had seen such a proper man for the first time in this medieval age. Brighton praised the captain of the guard, admitting that at first he seemed unworthy of the title of honorary monk, but he had spent the whole day with him, and Aaron's faith was strong. The man assured him that faith did not depend on how well he knew the scriptures, but that there were still many good words in them, and he advised him to read them. Aaron made sure there wasn't a single excuse to strike at the head of the monastery. The captain of the guards realized that one should not beat such people for his own gain, and decided not to approach the temple for the time being. The next morning, Brighton came to Aaron and asked if he had slept well, assuring him that it was a good time for prayer. Aaron closed the front doors and couldn't believe they would come to him this far. Brighton reported that hard work is also an indicator of strong faith. The head of the monastery assured him not to worry because he would help him so that he could pray and not skip training. Aaron was shocked that he had contacted an amazing clergyman with not a shred of understanding. After a while, Aaron was already fighting a huge goblin that was trying to sneak into their fortress. After destroying the 6th goblin, the guardian noticed that another monster started attacking him. The captain of the guard struck the attacking monster with a powerful blow from a U-turn. The monster did not expect such strength from his opponent, and so was defeated, unable to resist in any way. Aaron chopped another goblin in half. Now he had managed to get rid of all of them. The man made sure that at this point all opponents were defeated. He noticed that this sword turned out to be excellent. The rest of the guards noticed the man who had died at the hands of the goblins. Vermin reported that it was a good man. Dylan suggested increasing the number of guards to patrol outside, since even in such a backwater there were orcs. Poole assured him that there had been a lot of monsters lately. The guards couldn't believe that farming was more important than human life, and there were rumors that the eldest son of the Fenner family was going to clear the area nearby. Veerman reported to the captain that they had cleaned up all the breathless bodies, asking if they could go back since it was done. Noticing the blood that was permeated with dark magic, Aaron allowed them back in. The guards decided to stop by the inn and remember all those who had died in this battle. As they approached the fortress, the captain of the guard noticed Joanna sitting in a tree eating a cheese pie. Aaron made sure in person that there wasn't a single normal person in the place. The man found out that the bodies of the orcs also bore the marks of the Black Mage, and he decided that he should not just leave it at that. When he entered the monastery, he wanted to tell the head and the priest about it, but heard a verbal altercation between them. The clerk reported that there were too many who were moving in and out of the fort. Brighton stated that this was a silly excuse, asking why the trade book was so poorly put together. Aaron made sure it was the same potion merchant he was about to deal with. Brighton stated that from today he will be in charge of potions himself, and he will sweep the yard. The head of the monastery noticed that Aaron had come to them, and there was an awkward pause between them. Brighton asked if he had read the scripture and assured him that he would not tolerate any more excuses, for he had noticed on entering the fortress that there was time to read the scripture at the post. The captain of the guard said he came to him to tell him something. Aaron pointed out that the peasants were attacked by monsters today. The head of the monastery learned that the goblins had traces of black magic on them. They decided it was a very serious matter. Brighton asked about the mark of the unrighteous, thinking that the cause of the monsters in the vicinity of Kasserdick Fortress was the work of a dark mage. The priest asked what happened to the peasants, and the guard replied that all 4 had died because of the orcs. The head of the monastery visibly changed in his face. He thanked Aaron for telling him and getting rid of the monsters. Brighton asked the guard to keep an eye on the place, saying he had somewhere to go. The head of the monastery asked if he had seen the Inquisitor, for he could not find her, and Aaron realized that she was hiding from him. Afterwards, the governor found out about it and did not take any measures, but forbade to carry the bodies of peasants until the end of harvesting. Aaron became convinced that Brighton's words carried weight, and for him the lives of the peasants were more important. The abbot personally conducted the funeral, and the guards were convinced that he was a strange man, because the funeral was too lavish for ordinary peasants. Aaron asked his subordinate when he would do the cleaning. The man said that the cleaning had been postponed until tomorrow, although it was supposed to take place in 3 days. The knight asked if Lady Aaron would go, but only the guards of the Fenner family would go, since the others had decided to guard the Lord's house. The guards realized that it was very good that Lady Vivian stayed inside the fortress, because it would be better for everyone, because she had nothing to do with them while they were fighting the monsters. Aaron assumed that problems would start if a black magician was behind all this, because the monsters could be bait, and the real goal was to lure the soldiers out of the fortress. The captain of the guard was confident that Officer Nova and the superior could take care of the rest themselves. Nova didn't know if it was the Black Mage's business, but she couldn't avoid cleaning the guardian of Kasserdick Fortress, and she couldn't leave Lady Vivian here alone. Some morning later, the squad of knights gathered to move out for the sweep sounded the starting signal. The knights have moved outside the fortress to destroy all the monsters here. Aaron knew that the knight protecting Lady Vivian was always with her, and there were guards outside as well. Joanna also joined Lady Vivian's guard while the other knights left the fortress. Brighton assumed that Aaron was having difficulty reading the writing during the search, and so he decided to read aloud himself. Meanwhile, the head of the criminals asked how things were going. His subordinate replied that Crimson Darkness and Hartoon were already inside the fortress. They lured the guards out of the fortress with the help of monsters and sent them as far away as possible. The girl replied that it was good, making sure they didn't distribute the goblins and orcs across the lands for nothing. The henchman asked if there would be nothing for what they had done, because even though it was a suburb, it was still part of the empire. The girl assured that there is no need to worry about small things, because it is only necessary for the host to absorb the heart of the one who receives the love of mana, and no longer need to hide from these hypocrites. The henchwoman said that unlike Quarantel, she could handle the case, assuring that everything would go according to plan. The man reported that it was time they noticed that the knight was inside the fortress and they just needed to open the gate. The girl was surprised that he was just talking about it, assured that it was very hard to do. After her snap, huge demonic monsters appeared behind her and followed her orders. The henchman made sure that this monster had the nickname stuck. He was horrified at the sight of it. The girl pointed out that the fortress is a fortress, and with the help of ordinary force, it cannot be opened, and their accomplice is busy fighting with the knight inside. The mistress has ordered a night hunter to be brought to them, determined to use force to open the gates of the fortress. The man reported that the night hunter would be a little late, assuming he had lost his way again. The girl said that he was always late at the most important moment, because without him they could not open the gate. She decided that they could manage without him. The mistress ordered to prepare to retrieve the breathless bodies of the monsters, headed towards the fortress gates at a breakneck speed. The criminals intended for the terror to fill the fortress from within. The demon began to collapse the gates. The guards noticed this action and immediately took action to eliminate Iran, made a direct hit on the monster, jumping at it from the wall. The criminals were shocked by such a powerful force they didn't expect that there were such people left in the fortress. Noticed Aaron, they didn't understand who he was or how he managed to resist this demon. Aaron stated that he was beginning to doubt that they wouldn't come. The criminals realized that their plan had gone down the drain.